What's shaking there, my brothers and sisters in Christ? Hope you all had a swell week. Man, it's kind of crazy. As soon as I like literally the second I shut that stream off last night, Nick did his co-live message. I'm not even joking. The second. And I was just like, figures. Absolutely figures. If I didn't have bad luck, I would have no luck at all, as they say. I'm serious, though. Good. Just making sure it was pulled up. Man. And he said exactly what I was saying, that this stuff is not coincidence. And, I seen it when I was flipping through X the last night. I had seen the video of them jumping out of the back of dump trucks. And I just assumed that that was from another time period or another this or another that. It's hard to know. And I just knew that I knew which ones were for sure from yesterday. But the fact that, and obviously it was totally a coordinated deal. I mean, maybe it wasn't coordinated by that corrupt dude that runs Spain. Maybe it wasn't, but it was certainly coordinated. And I'm sure that they had an idea of what was going to happen. They had an idea for sure. And nobody, it's like they didn't even make an effort to stop it. And pretty much just what I was kind of guessing was going to happen is already, like, that's already happening. Like, well, first of all, got a great show for you guys this evening. Really excited about, to get into it because it's pretty juicy and it's hot off the presses, but like and subscribe if you haven't already, of course. And drop a comment, chop it up with everybody. I mean, I just seen a comment from last night's stream, somebody that's been a long time watcher that they were a lurker and they just made their first comment ever. So, and that happens from time to time. It's pretty legit. But, I seen a bunch of stuff on X that throughout the day today about the migrant stuff. And the trucks dropping those guys off totally fits. Totally fits. Because like I said last night, these guys weren't from like farms. These guys weren't just showing, like they were wearing like soccer jerseys and stuff. They look like an urban an urban demographic. 100% look like a bunch of street urchins. I'm telling, like a bunch of locusts. And really, there's no telling what's in their mind. There's no telling what's behind this scheme. No telling at all. And there's all kinds of, there could be big stuff behind it, like Israel is possibly behind this crookedness. And Nick made a good point. Like, we literally have Israel on one side and Arabs and Muslims on the other side. Like pulling on each arm. And we're just going to get ripped apart, it looks like. And I found myself thinking, this would go down as like something biblical. This is like a biblical event, like a biblical plague. This could have easily happened in like the Bible. And it has happened other times. Like the Reconquista or before the Reconquista. You know, Greece was totally run by the Ottoman Turks for many years. They're practically Muslims themselves, other than they're like really hardcore Greek Orthodox. But it's easy to forget that a lot of Europe was Muslim, like not too long ago. You know, what is it, Serbia or Albania? They're Muslim now. And like the whole Anatolian peninsula, which Turkey is a part of, or is on the, you know, is, well, no, I'm thinking of the Greek, it's not, the Greek peninsula, you know, and then there's the Anatolian, I think, next to it, which is Turkey. That was once Europeans. Not that long, really not that long ago. You know, could you imagine that? Like how much bigger Europe would be if they hadn't ceded Constantinople to Turks? Europe would be massive. It would be a lot bigger, I'm sure. You know, I mean, that certainly suppressed more European expansion. Europe may have expanded further. But it strikes me like these kind of events, they don't bode well. You know, there's no getting around that. That what happened yesterday, that doesn't bode well for us. And the attitude that our people and our governments have towards this whole thing, kind of scary. I mean, a lot of people are happy about this. We know the 50,000 people are happy about it, certainly. But you see on Twitter all of these Brian Krasenstein or whatever, you see people like this that are cheering this on. I didn't even see that till just a second. JG saying he was pretty excited. Well, it's a lot. It's a lot. And what's funny, I did the rounds too. I did the podcast rounds today. And I did I just took a peek at what everybody else was saying. They were saying almost verbatim what I was saying. Like, I watched some of Nick's show last night, and I was just like, no shit. I mean, my take was it was like the same as his take. You know, he had a couple of where he kind of went further than I did on 1 point or 2 points, but almost all of his points were the same points that I was making. Like how, and everybody was like, you know, the fact that this was obviously coordinated. This didn't just take place in a vacuum. These barbarians didn't just do this out of the clear blue sky. No, hell no. Yeah, they didn't decide to do. They were totally put up to that. They were those guys showed up that with no water, with no belongings. I mean, a few of them showed up, you know, came across that water with bicycles. But in 12 hours those people would be starving and they would be in survival mode. You know, like Morocco literally just loosed the hounds on them, on Spain. Those guys are going to another country or breaking into some zone with no resources, no food, no money, no nothing. It's not even that they told them it used to be their land. It's like they told them, you know, you're going to have to figure it out. It just kind of threw their ass into the water, figure it out. And that's the point, though, is they're sending them to another country or over that border with no belongings or money. How are they going to eat? How are they going to eat? In 12 hours, those guys are going to be ready to burn that town down. Did you consider that? How these guys are going to be ravenous. They're going to be like they have nothing, and they're going to a place where they know nobody. Everything has a price tag on it. What are they supposed to do? Right? I mean, what are they supposed to do? They're going to steal. They're going to loot, steal, whatever. I mean, if you don't give them food, if they're not given sustenance, they'll take it. And those, I didn't see, to a man, they were all strapping young men, like prime age young men. They'll never, the rest, every day after this, they'll never be the same guy again, pretty much, I mean, they're not getting any better. It's going downhill. But even a 50 or like the age and the type of men that came over, 40,000 of those men, 10,000 men. William the Conqueror took the British Isle with 10,000 men. 10,000 men, and they just sent 50,000 over. That's crazy, man. There is no other word for this other than invasion. That is absolutely an invasion. Anybody trying to say it's not is just straight up, they're crook. It's diabolical, because 50,000 men, like, and they just broke into a town that's half women, half old people, probably. So even no matter how big I think the town itself is 50 or 60,000, but half of those people are like kids and women. Like those, a guy my age or younger, a 50-year-old man is no match for a guy my age. It's not even close. Like 35 and younger or 40 and younger, that guy could take, it's like one guy that age, like 10 or 15 people that aren't a man in his prime. I mean, it's just, like I said, 10,000. William the Conqueror took England, conquered that whole island with 10,000 Normans. 10,000. And these guys just showed up with 50 or 60,000. And they're all healthy as horses and full of piss and vinegar. Like, they could easily be like a guerrilla force or like a legitimate force. And it's who's going to shoot them? You think the Spanish government's going to shoot them? I don't think so. And I mean, that's what this whole thing is, because they're like, they know that we won't shoot unarmed people, so they just throw them out at us, because they know we won't stop them, or and if they're unobstructed and they can just climb over obstacles, we're not going to shoot them off of those obstacles. We have to have obstacles they can't scale, they can't get through, because for some reason, that's off the table, shooting. Yeah, and it wasn't even just that town. I think there was one called Maia. So, I mean, it's like just a matter of time. and I guess this has happened before, but never to this extent. Like apparently there's a lot of pressure from the other side. Like the government is putting pressure on the border. And the population themselves, like they are fine. They're like a bio weapon, and they see themselves that way, and that's totally cool as far as they're concerned. Like they have no problem being shock troops. That's all gravy. That's gravy to them. They're okay with that. I mean, they they know that they're just going to their standard of living just went up drastically going forward. Like they know for sure they're not going to starve. They know they're not going to go without shelter. They already know. It's a done deal. Cuz we're suckers and we're ducks. We're going to I mean, it's crazy. These guys aren't here to make friends. They're here. It's like, you know, they're definitely not here to work. They're here to steal. They're here to steal 100%. All right, let me. And like I feel so bad for those people in Spain. I feel so bad. A lot of them are probably, I'm sure there's some of them that are okay with it, but I mean, like I said, this just doesn't bode well for us, man. Like it feels like we've we've angered the gods, as it were, or we've we've invited God's wrath as a civilization. How can I mean, like I said, this would totally fit in the Bible. And I've said this before, God like being ruled by women and foreigners, like those are punishments from God. You know, like if you've pissed God off, he will put women in charge of your civilization. Like not good. And the foreigners and like exactly what God would punish people with in biblical times, that's exactly what we're getting at the moment. What the hell? What the wow. This is why I love to live alone, it says. You know, it's kind of funny. I guess everybody does that when they live alone. Be singing, sometimes dancing, who knows? Whatever I feel like doing. Ah, that shit's funny. Yeah, I've done. Oh, look at this. The policemen. The police women. I can't. I'm smiling, but no, this ties in with what we're talking about here. This is what I mean by like civilizational decline being run by women. You know, our society, what like the stuff that we're trying to implement and the institutions we're trying to build up, none of them have anything to do with progress. We're not trying to improve our situation, improve the future, improve our kids' future. We're busy trying to implement female police officers. We're like busy trying to rearrange the social hierarchy of the world, truly, of everything, the whole kit and caboodle. And like, this is bad, man. Letting women, it's not even letting women do this, it's letting foreigners from the third world in. And then also implementing female police officers. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. Hey, what's up, J-Boss? You know, I remember when I was a kid, meter maids were called meter maids because they were women typically. You know, parking meter uh, cops. And those were the women usually did those jobs. But and these kind of jobs, it's absurd. Where these men come from, it's pretty rough. They come from a world where might makes right. Might makes right. Rules don't make right. If you're stronger, if somebody tries to stop you from doing something and you're stronger, you just do it anyway. So we're bringing a bunch of people here that have lived by the law of the jungle their entire lives. See, we haven't. We respect the badge. We respect it, you know, and it would feel like if this woman had comes up to me and, like, let's say I just did what I wanted and, like, shoved her or something, I would feel awful. Like, it would not feel right. First of all, I would be worried about pushing a cop, but, like, just doing that to somebody, it would not feel good. Shoving somebody like that, and then never mind that it's a woman. They have no such compunctions, none whatsoever. And like I was saying yesterday, the way that their social structure from where they come from is, and it's, honestly, it's the same here. It's the same here. There's it used to be back in the day that people didn't pay their tailor. Noblemen didn't pay their tailors. Tailors, like, historically and famously, were always fighting to get a hold of their money for their work. But, our social order, it was acceptable, or, you didn't pay your tailor, but you did pay a card shark. Every time, always. You get some work done by a tailor, it's okay to screw him. But if you lose money at the card table, you pay that, do you not? You don't even think twice about welching on a bet. But you'll stick up your tailor. Or other stuff too. It's kind of like with a credit card. You pay your credit card over, if you have to float a month, your credit card is the last payment you float. But that's the way our society always, that's the way all societies are. It's like, you can totally lie to people, or let's say you're cheating, or a woman is cheating on you or on a man with you. It's totally acceptable to carry out that indiscretion, but to, like, insult, or for somebody to insult you, you would, if you had a wife and she was cheating on you, who knows what you would do. But you know what I'm saying? Like, it's called a double standard. We have them too. We totally have double standards. Like, who is it acceptable to screw over and who isn't it acceptable? Oh yeah, that's, have you ever seen Anna Karenina? The David O. Selznick version? There's a part in that where Frederick March is talking to his buddy about how ass backwards society is. And he was a count. He was a nobleman in Russia, in Moscow. And that's what he was saying was this, this whole social order, this whole honor system that we have is totally a crock. It's totally a bunch of horse feathers. He's like, it's totally acceptable to screw your tailor and not pay him, but you daren't welch on a gambling debt. It has Greta Garbo in it. It's really good. It's an amazing movie. It's way ahead of its time too. But there's a couple other ones that he says too, where it's, you know, how it's just shows double standards about how it's acceptable to transgress. But if somebody transgresses against you, oh, it's the end of the world. That was back when people dueled and stuff for over women or whatever. But what I'm trying to say here is we have the same thing. They live by the same code, and we're like the tailor. They can screw us over all day long, and it will not affect their reputation. That's the same thing with the tailor. You could screw a tailor over all day long, and it would not affect your reputation. However, welching on a gambling bet, that would destroy your reputation. Committing adultery with somebody's wife or like those things would affect your reputation. But like I said, there's a double standard. Even back in the day with gentlemen and noblemen, even it was acceptable for them to screw some people, but not acceptable to screw others. And that's what I mean about this third world, that not only do they have this, well, and that's why I said it occurred to me that that's what's taking place here. And it's like I was saying about the honor of, Muslim honor, or their wives' honor, their women's honor, and their entire social order. They have a social order, they have a hierarchy, they have a system of honor, just like we do. And they dare not cross it. They dare not, they dare not take it lightly. It's not something they sneeze at. And it has, there's all kinds of stuff in there, and a lot of it's Sharia law and stuff, but none of their honor pertain. Their religion and their lifestyle and their way of life specifically countenances screwing over infidels, us, in other words, explicitly says that we can be transgressed again. I mean, I almost want to say, as far as killing, like, that is totally acceptable. They're allowed to steal from us. They're allowed to, they are allowed to just rape women freely with like Sharia law and stuff. And that's what I'm saying here is they are predators and we are the prey. They're coming into our social order, our society, and there's nothing about our society and our rules they don't abide by. That's what I'm getting at here. They don't abide by our rules. They're going to come into our countries, and nothing in our countries are they worried about, are they scared of. Nothing. Zero. They would like to avoid jail, I'm sure, but when it comes down to it, there's nothing that's going to make them feel guilty. And that's not high trust, fellas. That's the opposite of high trust. It's the opposite for Westerners. Our social order is set up to keep us constrained, keep us from transgressing against it. And it's set up in a way that we specifically respond to. We're highly sensitive to the shame and the social standards of our culture. They're not even aware of any such standards, not even aware of them. So this is not good. And anybody who's like kind of blowing it off or trying to fool themselves into thinking that this isn't bad, or it's like, wake up, open your eyes. Like, these people, everywhere they go, they're trouble. And that's not that's the rule, not the exception. Most certainly, that's the rule, not the exception. 1 second. There we go. Yeah, that's the rule, not the exception. They don't follow our rules. They don't plan on following our rules. It's like they're a kid in a candy store now, and their version of candy is right. I'm your Huckleberry. Good old Tombs. Good old what's his name? Hell, I can't think of his name at the moment. That's crazy. He played the Saint and Real Genius. The Ghost and the Lion. That was one of my favorite movies. Man, it's right on the tip of my damn tongue too. Son of a bitch. Anywho, yeah, this is 50,000 too. Like I said, 10,000 invaded England. They took over and totally changed that country forever. Like a 50,000 fighting age men, they're not ever going to leave. They're here. They're here to stay. We will never get them out. That's why. That's exactly what. Yeah. Oh yeah. Val Kilmer. Yeah. But that's exactly what Nick said. That's what that's what everybody was saying was like, and Nick even said, this really pisses you off. It's really demoralizing because there's nothing it's this helplessness. We have this feeling of helplessness. And we know nobody's going to do anything about it, and they're never going to go home. They're never going to leave. They have no intention of ever setting foot back in their home countries. I mean, they'll take that over going to jail, like we found out yesterday, but they don't intend. They intend on becoming quasi-Westerners. I mean, laughably. Did you guys see what happened to Vivek? Whoa. Incredible. Incredible stuff. I couldn't believe it, man. I'm so happy to see it too, because I mean, it's like, bro, learn your place. We don't want you here, man. Hang on. I'm trying to switch my thing up here. There we go. There we go. Raggedy son of a bitch. All right, got it set up now. Look what happened. Vivek was live on stage yesterday. Look how, you guys, this is crazy. Oh, my X app was like frozen something. Yeah, what the fuck, man? It's loading. Come on. You gotta be kidding me. I just shut the damn thing down, restart it. Pisses me off. Right when I need it to work, it freezes on me. Dude, the hell? The fuck, man. Anyhow, this is some. Wow. What's going on?
There is an ongoing invasion into the Spanish territories of Ceuta, C-U-T-A, and Melilla. They are north of Morocco. They border the Moroccan territory in northern Africa. For those who are on the radio side of things, you can't see the map, but we have a map prepared here for you over on the live stream and the TV side. Of course, Ceuta is right next to the Strait of Gibraltar, the entry point from the Atlantic Ocean into the Mediterranean, and Melilla is closer to the border of Algeria. These are Spanish territories. As of right now, Spain's civil guard chief has declared the border totally collapsed between Ceuta and Morocco as...
Yeah, here we go. There we go. Check this out. This is crazy. Man. There we go. Oh. Wow. This really pisses me off. How did this happen? Anyhow.
No matter what happens in whichever direction we go, people of my generation have already made it. We're going to be fine. It's going to be your generation that pays the price.
Is that guy stupid or what? Is that guy stupid or what? Thank God. Good.
The truth of the matter is, no matter what happens in whichever direction we go, people of my generation have already made it. We're going to be fine. It's going to be your generation that pays the price.
Wow. That's a wrap for that idiot. That's a wrap for this moron. He thinks he's so slick. He's the know-it-all kid in class. It never occurs to him that people don't want to hear what he has to say. What an idiot.
You're a political cretin, and you need to get the fuck out of here.
The truth of the matter is,
hell yeah.
No matter what happens in whichever direction we go, people
love
of my
it.
generation have already made it. We're going to be fine.
This is so badass.
It's going to be your generation that pays the price.
I'll let
You're a
it play.
political cretin, and you need to get the fuck out of here.
The truth of the matter is, no matter what happens in whichever direction we go, people of my generation have already made it. We're going to be fine. It's going to be your generation that pays the price.
Vivek Ramaswamy is booed off stage after telling Ohio crowd, the truth of the matter is, people in my generation have already made it. We're going to be fine. He was, dude, froze. Really, though? Really? He's not very smart, obviously. Why would you say? Obviously he's making a point, but it's like, dude, you don't tell people how it doesn't matter if you succeed or fail, because you'll be fine. What kind of what exactly are you trying to, what are you trying to accomplish here? He's an idiot, obviously. He's not a very good political actor, because only an idiot, somebody like Nancy Pelosi, they don't make mistakes like this. You know what? Like really good, actually, people who are meant to be politicians, they don't make mistakes like that. That's a bonehead mistake. That one right there. It's funny. I was thinking how truly this meme here, it fits the left so well. It says, if it saves one life and the other person says, no thanks, I hope you die. Isn't that exactly, bro, does that not hit so right? If it saves just one life, I think I'm good. I don't like having a dirty rag over my face. I hope you die. They're the worst people. And what's funny is, or what really I think sucks about modernity is how there's no morality. And I've said this before, how on the left, they don't have morality. They don't have what's known as morality. Not in the sense that that's good and that we think of. What they have is like a quasi morality, whereas just like evolution or statism is like it's like a quasi replacement for religion. They have that with everything. They have the Diet Coke version of everything. You know, religion, like Christianity, that's like a regular Coke, and they worship communism. You know, that's, and it's the same thing with morality. They're not good people. What they are is they're good leftists. You know, as long as they believe in all the causes, as long as they're an ally of gay people, as long as they're against an activist and against climate change, they can be the worst person ever. They could be a total asshole. They can, you know, treat their inferiors like shit, chew out waitresses and waiters, no tips. They can do whatever they want. And as long as they virtue signal, as long as they care for the right causes, that's what I mean. There's really no morality, especially not in the West right now or in progressivist communities, because they don't give a shit if you're kind to people. Truly. They couldn't care less. They couldn't care less if you're kind to people or not. All they care about is that you know, you're for the same causes as them. That's all that matters. It should be criminal. And that's why it's so shitty. That's why life is so shitty right now in the West, or at least it feels this way. Because it certainly does. Certainly does. What the hell is going on here? Dude, what the fuck? Oh my goodness. Getting annoyed with this. This is just whack. Okay. I'm not getting it, I guess. Crazy. You know, it's like I kind of got away with a lot of stuff when I first started doing this. You know, because I streamed Nick's stuff, and it's like I'm kind of have to figure it out again. It sucks figuring this stuff out. It really does. And, you know, I am kind of glad that this stuff isn't flying under the radar anymore. Like, because of yesterday, and because we're already, oh wow, the Young Turks are even talking about it. 50,000 immigrant. What the hell? What is this? Doing me dirty. I don't get why the hell it's like black. Why can't I pull the damned? Okay. So
in from Morocco to Spain in their province called Quetta that they control. And 34 have already died. Interestingly, half have already returned. I'm going to tell you why all of this happened, give you a couple of reasons, and a surprising country that might be involved.
What the hell? Huh? Sort of kind of wondering.
Morocco has said for a long time that they think it's theirs. And so could the Moroccan government have been involved in instigating things there? Well, that's almost certain, as we're about to show you. But you see, it's not connected to the mainland in Europe, but since it is part of Spain and hence technically part of Europe, people that are there and have legal citizenship can go anywhere in the EU. So it is a very relevant place to be, especially if you gain citizenship. Okay, now let me show you how people are pouring into that area. And this is from the Wall Street Journal. They did a good job of showing you. So the area is up on the north there. You see the dotted line. And a lot of people rush through.
Dude. The fuck?
People don't randomly walk into a truck and then walk out and then rush into Spain, especially with police that are watching them. So there's no question this is organized, and it appears that there's almost no question that the Moroccan government is at least allowing it to happen, if not encouraging it to happen, but it does appear to be encouraging. So what are the possible reasons why that might be? Well, that's what I wondered, and I'm sure you're wondering why it's happening all of a sudden. So let's try to dive into it. First, we start with the Wall Street Journal. Recognize it as Spanish territory. At times it has dropped controls on its side of the border, allowing people to surge forward and overwhelm border defenses in Ceuta. So this is a tactic that Morocco has used before, including as late as 20. But it's not like the Moroccan government's above it. They've done it before, and like I said, almost certainly involved in some way now. So Wall Street Journal continues. This time, analysts who study the region suggest Morocco may have loosened its border controls as a warning shot to Spain after Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez showed a desire to improve relations with Algeria, Morocco's historic rival for influence on Africa's northwest coast. So that's a plausible reason right there. Might be Algeria. Okay, they're angry about Spain's relationship with Algeria. But there are other possibilities. Moroccan lawmakers have said the influx was more likely to have been triggered by a recent Spanish Supreme Court ruling that made it more difficult to turn back migrants if they arrive by sea. Okay, so that's a potential reason as to why now. So Spain's courts rule, and then people go. But again, if it was not organized, it would be a little burst and another burst and a couple people and a couple of families and maybe a couple hundred people, but it certainly would not be an organized 50,000 person basically raid, right? But it's certainly the Supreme Court decision there in Spain could have made a difference, and definitely.
And times have changed, because there was a period in time when the Young Turks would not have even talked about this, and if anything, they would have they would have expressed sort of either meh or their pleasure in that happening. At least now they're pointing it out and they're saying, yeah, what the hell is going on here? We're not sure what's going on, but at least they haven't made a value judgment on it.
And how they arrive through the water, because if they go through the water, there was a special ruling saying that they're more likely to gain citizenship. So that gets into the details of the Spanish court system, but relevant as to how they arrived, but maybe not necessarily as to why they arrived. So one more from the Wall Street Journal. They explained that still other European countries are nervous. France said it was tightening security at its border with Spain, and Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni said her country might consider suspending the Schengen rules, and the Schengen rules are what allow people to go anywhere they want with that. From now on, at least Italy is beginning to wonder if
maybe it's a bad idea.
France is closing its borders with Spain, so this has had dramatic effect on Spain, and it's hurt Spain in a lot of different ways. So now, as we told you, one possibility is just Morocco's randomly mad at them and over Algeria. There's a second possibility. Does it involve Kazakhstan. Well, of course it does. No, I'm kidding. Of course it's about Israel. Unfortunately, I didn't think so, but we have overwhelming evidence, which I'm going to share with you in a second. But first, John, before we get into if it's Israel, what do you make of all of this? Relatively normal? Hey, yay, immigrants going to Spain. There's nothing wrong with it, or all of this is problematic. What's your take?
I mean, none of it seems like totally normal in any way. The sheer numbers, the fact that it occurred basically inside of a 24 hour.
I can't stand this dude. I think he's a weenie. But on top of being a weenie, I think he's actually a bad person. You know, he's one of those people that he never changes, and he sees us as the enemy. You know, he was raised to see us as the enemy, people on the right. And even though Cenk and Anna kind of have loosened up, and you know they're okay, they'll do business with the right, they'll work with the right. He's the opposite. He still, you know, mutters into his beard, and still, it's like he still feels, you know, like we were his sworn enemy at one point, and you know, even though the things that we used to disagree about don't matter anymore, like like Roe v. Wade and shit like that doesn't really matter anymore, but he still like throws it in people's faces all the time. And somebody who, if he disagreed with somebody, they could have his exact opinion on something, and he will pull something from the past to justify not agreeing with them, and not, you know, like even if they agree with him 100%, no, he won't do it. He doesn't care. Marjorie Taylor Greene has come to their position on Israel, and no, he won't do it. He will not do it. That's low IQ. That's immature. That's petty. That's somebody who doesn't actually give a shit about moving the ball forward. And he doesn't see us as just like him or regular Americans. He doesn't see us as compatriots or comrades on any level, no level. And I guess it would take, maybe if one, you know, got down on their hands and knees, or got down and bowed their head to the ground like some Arab, you know, smacking his head on the ground, apologizing and admitting how wrong you were to, you know, have a problem with women killing their babies in the womb. You know, you have to be contrite, and you have to offer a blow job. You have to glaze them a little. I mean, it's just petty, and it really bothers me. Like, you know, you see how Anna and Cenk are. If somebody agrees with them on something, they'll take the help. They will take the help. This guy will not. And that to me, it's unfit to work with and live with. I just won't. It's like, bro, what is wrong? Like, because, you know, I'm somewhat of a pragmatist, and I think, you know, it's better to get things done. It's better to make progress. And, you know, I don't have a problem working with people I don't like, especially if it's on common ground. And this guy, he's like, you know, and I don't know what it is about. Maybe of course, I think he's gay or something. It's kind of effeminate. I mean, and honestly, he doesn't really present as effeminate or anything like that. But that characteristic is effeminate to me. Holding, like, that's taking it personal. That's taking politics personal. Where, and even if the person changes their views, that doesn't matter, because it's personal. They have a problem with you as a person. They don't give a shit what you think. They have a problem with you as a person. That is somebody who is ideologically like cemented in, you know, where if they disagreed with you at one point, they're going to hate you forever. How does that make any sense? Like, I don't want to know people like that. I don't want to interact with people at all, ever. Spare me. I'd rather go without. Truly. I'll let him play for a second though, just so you can see what I mean.
Period is unlike anything that I've seen. Bearing in mind that I will acknowledge what very few people talking about this topic in the news today won't acknowledge. I know basically nothing about. I didn't even know that Spain had this sort of city that they control right there. So I'm learning about this in real time as everyone else coming to the story is. But yeah, the fact that it happened in such a short period of time makes some of the explanations, as you pointed out, hard to believe. Like the Supreme Court decision, okay, I could see that having effects over time, but that would have to filter through. And even if it led to a bunch of people in different countries wanting to come through, they all got there on the same day. That doesn't really make sense to me. None of those explanations necessarily make sense. Just the sheer quantity all.
And that's something else too, is just, he didn't say anything there that bothered me, but it's something about sort of this condescending sarcasm. I don't mind sarcasm, but there are certain people where it's their default setting. They go to sarcasm for everything. That's their, to some degrees, I think sarcasm, that's not a caveman or like that's actually somewhat of a, not civilized, but it's sort of, it says this person thinks a little bit, that the fact that, they say things with satire, like there's a little bit of thought behind that. But the person that does it all the time, it's like, that's all they, they're not smart enough to know any other tricks or any other clever things. So they just, oh, that's so funny, I forgot to laugh. I remember that one back in the 90s. So funny, I forgot to laugh. Golly, I remember kids saying that all the time. Seriously. Kids would say, I remember hearing it a lot, actually. And of course, kids, they beat stuff to death. Just remember hearing the same crap over and over and over. It's pretty ridiculous, to be honest. Let's set that up right. I was trying to go back to X right quick. There we go. There we go. I really did want to do a couple. Good. But yeah, like Nick said, these Arabs, they're a civilizational enemy. A civilizational nemesis, a civilizational opponent. Like they want to bring our civilization down. They really do. And when they come here, they kind of see it through that lens. Like they're not going to do any good. They're going to enrich themselves by tearing our civilization down. But at the same time, also, the people, the progressives, they're a civilizational enemy too. Big time. They basically want the same thing. That's how it feels anyway. Or it's like they hate this civilization. They hate it. They truly do. And they're not going to get rid of it, but they're going to change it. Like they think it's not worth saving. But it's like they know they can't just scrap it. They couldn't get a communist revolution if they wanted to. So what they're doing is they're changing it in such a way so that it suits them 100%. Or it will destroy the civilization. It's like they're trying to make everything, flip everything in reverse, put us at the bottom of the ladder, put other, minorities at the top, put women in the police force. They're doing all these things. It's like they're trying to change it into their Frankenstein monster. And really they're trying to destroy it, but they're making it into their version. And if it destroys it, so much the better. You know what I mean? Like, because they can't believe that the stuff is working. There's no way they must see that the videos of the female cops too. Like, it's crazy. These people, they just walk all over our civilization. They no compunctions whatsoever. And I mean, I just feel like they have to be aware of it. They got to be aware of it. And, you know, stuff like this too. Is anybody honest? Like, it's a picture of a woman dressed up like a lobster. She's with PETA. And it's like, these stupid PETA and these activist organizations, NGOs, and all these different, like basically feminist organizations, these women use them. It's like they satisfy their thirst at the same fountain. Not only are they attacking, their virtue signaling, showing how much better of a person they are, but they're also, it's like two or three birds with one stone. Not only are they scolding you for liking seafood, but she's showing off her skin and her naked body at the same time. It's so disgusting and disingenuous. It's like women, the modern women, dude, they're like desperate for an opportunity to take their clothes off. At every opportunity, women are naked instantly. What's up, Chile? As soon as the situation could be totally uncalled for and they'll get naked, like this lobster. She didn't need to get naked. She could have worn a lobster suit. No. She wouldn't get to show off her body, fellas. You know, and she's probably in her 30s. I mean, she doesn't look super young to me for some reason. She's got a little bit of weight on her. Like, you know, pleasantly plump. But she's showing off her body. This may as well be OF, man. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I see this all the time. Modern women, like, there's something going on there because, you know, obviously they're not getting their bell rung enough or whatever, because I'm constantly seeing women show, like, if you go on Reddit, holy crap, man. Like I seen there's a chick that posts a naked picture of herself in front of the mirror every single day. What the hell? You know, what is that all about? Like, there's this like desperation, this incredible urge or desire for women to show themselves off. And I mean, I get it, but it's like, I think it's starting to come off not in a good way. It's not cute at some point. At some point it's like, you know, are you okay? Like, is this a scream cry for help? What the hell is going on? Like, this is not normal. This is not normal at all. This woman is, what is she, going mad or something? I mean, bro, why are you like more than half naked on a plate with cups of butter next to you and stuff? Like, come on now. Seems kind of ridiculous to me. Yeah, and like, but this is what I mean about Western civilization. They're hollowing it out as often as they can, as much as they can. They're constantly hollowing it out. You know, now our cops are not really, it seems like they're not really cops anymore or something like that. I don't know. They're trying to change them out to women or something here. I don't get it. I do not get this. And it is hollowing us out. It's hollowing us out. You're bringing people here that live by the social code of might makes right. Might makes right. And then you put all of the institutional middlemen, the institutional keepers that, I forget the damn word. The people that, you know, keep the peace, the peacemakers, and all the different institutions. And then you bring in people that don't listen to women. You know, when I went to I actually got expelled from middle school, and I went to an alternative school for a couple months. Literally, like 3 months, I think. And I remember there was a Muslim kid that started the same time I did. And when we would get to school, the teachers would stand outside of their classroom door, and you would shake every single teacher's hand on the way into class, on the way into your class. Every single teacher. And this kid was Muslim, and he came in, he was on the orientation day I was, and his father raised a thing at the end of orientation. He said, we're Muslim, my son, he can't shake your teacher's hands. It's against his religion. You know how much it pissed those teachers off? They were black teachers, and so it was a dump. But man, it pissed them off something awful. It was a serious slight to those black women that kid wouldn't shake their hand. They couldn't, but like, you know, and to them, they were in the jungle. That's how that school was. And you can't really make exceptions for one kid like that, because that was it was kind of a respect thing. It was an alternative school, and they were trying to lay down the law. And this kid he could opt out. He was exempt. They did not like that. But he couldn't shake their hands. Well, that was in school. And if it's like same thing with these cops. Does anybody honestly think that anybody that doesn't care about Western laws and Western social norms and stuff, like, are they going to listen to a woman cop, or are they just going to take her gun from her? You know what? Like, it's like setting people up to fail, setting women up to fail, setting these migrants up to fail. You know, but like putting them in a position where they're not going to take orders from these women. And I bet you a lot of them end up getting in a lot more trouble because there isn't a stern guy laying down the law from the jump. Jesus Christ. I don't know what the hell is up with this thing making me restart it every 2 seconds. It's getting rather annoying. Look at this. Come on.
Better than juice.
Sir, why did you choose Fanta?
Because I don't like juice.
Fanta. Better than juice.
Oh man, because I don't like
Sir,
juice.
Why did you choose Fanta?
Because I don't like juice.
Fanta. Better than juice.
That's funny though. It really is. This guy is trying
why
to
did you
get
choose Fanta?
hired by a
Because I
brand.
don't.
Man, and you know, I read an article. This is disturbing. This is some disturbing shit right here. It's this one. It's an AI story. Anthropic's Project Panama should disturb everyone. Anthropic is secretly buying up rare books, slicing their spines off, scanning them, and shredding the originals, and it's court-sanctioned. Some of these are the last known physical copies in the world. Now they're gone forever, for the sake of digitization. And wanting to digitize them is understandable, and I have no idea if Anthropic is doing anything with malintent. But destroying rare books on purpose is both wrong and dangerous. And based on internal memos, Anthropic knew that's how people would react if this ever got out. A digital file can be edited, updated, or quietly rewritten overnight. Anthropic could be completely accurate with their reproductions, but that doesn't stop someone else down the line without the original physical copy. There is nothing, without that original physical copy, there's nothing left to check the file against. And it's like they're destroying these things so that you have to come to them for the knowledge. You know, this really scares me here. I'm not going to lie. This is one of the scarier things that I've read in my life. And in the past year, you know, I've read some scary stuff recently, but this right here, this is how you know it's going to be it's going to be different going forward. And we're used to things a certain way, but they're not going to stay the same. We're so used, we come from this internet age, we're used to information being right at our fingertips. Biggity bam, it's right. You know, and it's anytime we need it, whenever we want it. And it's like, it's almost as if we've forgotten what it's like to have to, like, we're from the Googling, we Google everything. You know, and we're the Google, what do they call the Google generation, more or less. That's pretty much what's going on. Yeah, we're from the Googling generation. And we don't know what it's like to go. I mean, I went to the library, but I would be willing to bet a lot of other people didn't go to the library. Be willing to bet. And these books, once they're gone, they're gone. And it's like people, and this younger generation, it doesn't even occur to them that to be wary of this. If they don't even think anything of this happening. You know what I'm saying? Like, this happening isn't going to, it scares the hell out of me because I know what they can do. Once they get rid of these things, the next thing you know, they will be rewriting stuff. And people like me, people like you guys that know things, we're not going to exist in the future. You know what I mean? Like, they're going to lull human beings into a false sense of security. They're going to say, don't worry about it. We've got it all stored. We've got it all written down. Don't worry about it. We're just getting rid of, we're recycling this paper so we don't have to cut down more renewable resource trees that we can just grow more of. You know, I mean, it's that simple, but they're going to lull future generations into a false sense of security, and they're not going to know what hit them. And it'll be exactly like 1984. I mean, that's it. We can see what they're doing in front of our eyes. They're pulling a 1984 here. And nobody's going to tell me that that's not what they're doing. It's absolutely what they're doing. You would have to be an idiot to think that that's not what they're doing. You know what I mean? Seriously, you'd have to be an absolute moron. And I see a couple people talking about it, but it's like, to my mind, they're not scared. They're not enough scared of this, to be honest with you. If you want to know what I honestly think, I don't think they're scared enough. I think this is way scarier than they would have us believe. They're getting rid of, no matter what, that is a diabolical scheme. No matter what their reason is, it's a diabolical scheme. Absolutely 100%. And a lot of people aren't even paying attention. No, like, I saw this when I was scrolling and just figured I'm going to pull it up. Why not? Buy physical. I mean, let me finish it before I move on. Some of these are the last known physical. I mean, they really are last known physical copies. And what was it? Every dictator in history who has tried to control the will of the people has known that. This just makes it way easier than gathering up all the books and burning them. Not only are they destroying the books, but they will be the keepers of knowledge. They will be the only ones that actually have this knowledge going forward. That should scare the shit out of all of us. That should have people deathly afraid. I mean, seriously, this is as scary as that, as the Arabs coming over. It's absolutely that scary to my mind. And, you know, we're dealing with all these things, this confluence of things all at once. We're dealing with migrants flooding our countries, and we have AI companies cannibalizing our knowledge, the people's knowledge, and storing it on servers that they own, that you must pay for. Yeah, you're right. And books burn too. You know, but how many buildings are actually made out of wood anymore, lumber? Not many. My house is made out of block. Like, I couldn't care less. I mean, if my house could still burn down, but it's not going to fall down because of termites, that's for sure. Yeah, this really freaks me. Like, these AI companies, why would they be? And not only that, like, okay, so a judge finds out about it, a court finds out about it, and they look into it. That's how bad this is. This immediately raises questions, enough so that a judge looked into it and had to look into it. But I mean, and nobody would think that this was a good thing, more or less, especially they're getting rare books, old books. And then it didn't even occur to me that, yeah, they'd be able to change it too, because they get rare books where there's only one of them. Then it's really, that's a wrap. That's a wrap. And thank God I have a lot of books, honestly. And I buy books, actually. I buy more books than I buy any other, like, music albums, or, well, I get records too, but, like, because I actually think it's important to have the physical media. Like, I like having my records. I like that. I like that I can, you know, I don't need the internet. I mean, records, you need a record player, you need speakers, you know, and you need a needle. But it is physical. You know, it's analog. I like that. Let me get to, I think I another bookmark for this. Yeah, AI companies are buying up books in bulk, scanning them to train their AI models, and then destroying the books. This is why billionaire-owned AI companies are a scam. No shit, they're a scam. No shit, they're a scam. Because it's a license to print money. AI companies, they don't produce anything. They produce no product. They produce no hard copies, or, you know what I mean? Like, they don't put anything out into the world. They process other people's crap. So it's like the AI company, they don't actually have to produce anything, and it gives the guy who runs it, it gives him cover. You know, he can do, you know, he doesn't have to produce anything. He can focus on whatever. And it's like a laundromat, or, you know, it's a license to print money. Like a lot of businesses are that way, you know, a crooked anyway. Nationalize AI now. I think that's a dumb idea. I mean, at least on its face, just nationalizing AI. I mean, that is what China has done for the most part. I mean, it is. I think it's more capitalist. The way they've done their AI is more free market oriented than the way we have. What we're doing is we're like not bailing them out like the banks, but the same. That's basically what we're doing. I mean, we haven't bailed them out yet, but we have protected them and given them all kinds of special treatment. Trump has. And look what they're doing. Running these books through hydraulic presses. This is not good, man.
Happening again and again and again. Not 100 times, not 1,000 times. Millions of times.
Crazy.
They want every book on planet Earth to be ingested into the machine.
Hell yeah, they do.
That on in and of itself is fine.
They would love that.
Okay?
They would love it.
Not shredded. Now, Anthropic is one of the largest artificial intelligence companies in the world, and they.
You guys realize that like that would be the end of our civilization, basically, because the staying power of Western civilization is in its tomes and artifacts. Like, this is what archaeologists dig up. These are the treasures that they look for. And once, you know how archaeologists, the only people that we know about are the people that left behind a piece of themselves, are the people, it's the same thing with animals, the animals that were in the middle of doing stuff. You know, that's the only way we know what these animals and people did in the past, is because we find their body or their skeleton, and then we look for artifacts around it. We do it with animals too. They can tell if an animal was like, maybe it was in a pond, or, you know, like they can tell. Users are not paying for all their token usage. Rich people are. Huh. Well, I mean, like, a lot. Think about how many stories would disappear. All of these, the Count of Monte Cristo, over 1,000 pages. You couldn't write that again. You know, like, it's gone. Nobody has it remembered verbatim in their head. You know, like, and famous works that, like, when people talk about Aristotle's comedy, like, I don't know if any of you guys have ever seen that movie with Christian Bale and Sean Connery where they're monks at a scriptorium or at a monastery. But that was about, like, the whole movie was kind of around Aristotle's manuscripts, and we don't have them all. We only have some of his, we only have a few of them. I forget. One of them is economics. I think there's economics, and then there's the Manichaean or Namak. I forget how to say that N word for his principles, the Namekian principles, something like that. But we only have a few of them, and he wrote more. Oh yeah, the Republic too. He wrote more. We don't have those anymore. And people talk about it, or like people talk about the Great Library of Alexandria. Bro, those books are still talked about to this day, man. To this day. Yeah, Nicomachean, yeah. To this day, we still talk about these books, and we haven't had a copy of them for 1,000 years or for over a millennia. We haven't had a copy, a true copy of Aristotle's comedies, or Plato's. I think it was Plato's. Plato did some manuscripts too. But yeah, it's been millennia since those were lost. We still lament those being gone, you know, and imagine if the Bible just disappeared. Imagine that. It would be gone forever. And it could happen. It could absolutely happen, man. Easily. Yeah, maybe it was. Maybe, maybe it was poisoned. But I'm just saying, these are ideas, and they're ideas that our civilization has grown with. They're ideas that that it's like ham and eggs. You know, growing up in the West, you expect to be able to read. You expect to be able to read the Odyssey and the Iliad. It may not be for much longer, because if it sounds like if these guys have their druthers, there won't be any books by the end of the century. You know, and it's not like they're etched in stone like the Ten Commandments or something. Once they're gone, once it's not written down. I mean, it's just, I shudder to think And there's so much, like all the music that would be lost. Like these guys are playing with dynamite here. These stupid AI billionaire, like what are they thinking? This is not smart. You know, to just read through or scan a book and then just burn it. Like what? What's the point of scanning it at all? Like if you're not even going to keep a backup of it, like you may as well throw it all out. I mean, as far as I can, if you get rid of the hard copy, it's not going to be around very long. Like I know the way storage works and electron, like it's just not going to be around long. Once it's no longer in physical form, then through human error, it will be lost. You know, because at that point, you know, if somebody accidentally, you know what I mean? You can't accidentally erase a book. You can accidentally or lose tons of stuff. They do it all the time where they lose people's information. And it's just like, man, and a lot of things don't scare me, but this one in particular, it just seems like that's knowledge. And books, they deserve respect. They're not to be sneezed at. This knowledge is power, as they say. And if you think they're not destroying that because knowledge is power, you got another thing coming. They're literally, that is why they're destroying those books. Like they're even saying how we're not gonna be an illiterate society for very much longer. We're not gonna exist for very much longer, from what it sounds like. Like they're talking about going backwards, back into the primordial ooze. I just can't even believe it. It's diabolical is what it is. Like, look at this. How much does human breathing contribute to climate change? Really? How much does human breathing contribute to? And let's say we did know that. What do we intend to do about it? Kill humans? What the fuck? Like, what the hell? That's our breath, that as long as we're alive, it happens. So why even care? Why care? But I mean, honestly, and then this guy says, they are desperate that we blame anything except capitalism. Why wouldn't we blame capitalism? They've been blaming capitalism since I was a kid. Like, what is this guy talking? Bro, they've literally been blaming capitalism for as long as climate change has been around. They have been blaming only capitalism. You never hear communism get blamed for this. They never talk, like, you never hear them talk crap about China. What? Oh. You know, and does anybody ever tell these morons that you do realize, yeah, we breathe oxygen and exhale carbon dioxide, and plants breathe carbon dioxide and exhale oxygen. Hello. It's not like this shit just, it's, you know, it's like nuclear waste that's just with us for eons, or it has half-life. No. We have to breathe so that plants can breathe. Like this, it's incredible. And another thing too. Oh, they're desperate to blame anything but communism but capitalism. Dude, who are you trying to fool? They have no problem. The businessmen, they would be totally okay with getting rid of capitalism. They know how to, we don't have capitalism now. And to think that the people that are fat and happy, these disgusting billionaires, like, to think that they wouldn't remain top businessmen in a communist country, you're crazy. They're in control of all this stuff, and they're not going to lose control because we move from, like, I could see them getting rid of capitalism because they don't need it anymore. You know, they're not up and coming. This guy's an idiot. Like, and it's, you know, climate change, it has nothing to do with fixing the earth or any of that. It's purely control. It's purely control. How can we? It's purely control and manipulation, behavioral control, incentives. You know, they legitimately, they want reasons to tell us what to do. That's what climate change was. It was a good excuse for them to tell us what to do, for them to tell us we can't have things anymore. Oh, you can't have this anymore. Oh, the world is like the ozone layer and this, that, and the third. You know, like we used to have aerosol hairspray that came in a can. You didn't have to spray the hairspray manually. It was in an aerosol can. I know the old cats in here will know what I'm talking about. They got rid of it because aerosol cans were eating in the ozone layer. Yeah, so they just we had to go without something that was all the rage for years. Those aerosol can hairspray that when people had the big hair in the 80s, it's gone. Now, I remember growing up, you had the hands spraying. Yeah, that's what we have now. That's our government. That is these evil people that want to call the shots. They want to decide what is good and what is bad, what we're allowed to do, what we're not allowed to do. That's all this is a manipulation tactic. And this moron thinks it's about protecting capitalism. You miss the point, idiot. You miss it goes right over your head. That's the last thing they're concerned with when they're doing this stuff, when they're propagandizing. They don't give a hoot in hell about capitalism. They already have the control. And just this stupid article or image lets you know they have control. Yeah, it's, and it's funny you say that, Sheila. Like over the last couple of days, I was thinking, has anybody honestly asked us, like, as humans make forward progress, but definitionally, by design and by its definition, progress means we're becoming less and we're becoming more and more, less and less natural. Less and less natural. Every increment of progress we make, we get further and further away from our natural way of life, our natural environment, our natural, like the way we talk to each other, the way we're just continuously getting further and further and further away from more like a traditional kind of mode of life, like where we go outside, every day. But I'm just saying, for all the progress by definition means man-made, basically. And there's a certain amount of, I think there's a certain amount of our lives that should kind of stay grounded. But it's like it's like a runaway train or so. We just can't. It's out of our hands now, and we can't stop it. We can't slow it down. Our lives are getting more and more convoluted, complex, harder to spot the purpose. Like the more time that goes by, the more difficult it is to justify everything. The more difficult it is to find worthwhile meaning out of any of this. We're getting away from natural modes of being, like living with other people, having children, having a relationship or a spouse, being around other people and dealing with other people. I don't know why we haven't had any sort of a movement or any sort of an upswell of people calling for, sort of stepping back, and taking a moment to reflect. I see them doing it for AI, but nobody's doing it for people. Like, and these behaviors and stuff, it's like they'll be long gone before anybody realizes what we've lost. Oh, I don't know if I'm getting depressed. I mean, I was just thinking about it the other day, how it's just like, it just gets more and more sterile, the environment and the way of life that we inhabit. We get so far away from it, and then you have movements like the organic movement where everybody, started to buy organic. And that's all I'm saying is like, with the foods, everything got so processed, and then people realized, wait a second, what are we doing? And we took a step back. That's all I'm saying. Is that, maybe I think this deserves a step. It deserves our attention. It deserves some intention and a little bit of deliberation, because that's how you lose stuff, is you just kind of go with the flow and it falls away. And it's like, there's so much change happening. I think that we should keep an eye, and do it deliberately. Okay, I have no problem with the change, but understand the change as it happens instead of it, because I've been through a lot of changes, like the iPhone, and you didn't really hear much about it being this huge change. Nobody ever really said anything. It was just like after 5 years, you looked around and everything was totally different all of a sudden. That's what I'm saying. I mean, I tend to, I'm not a hoarder, but I'm a little anal retentive. Like, I always feel like I'm gonna, like, I'll, when I need this, I won't have it, or, you know what I'm saying? Like, so and I'm I have a tough time, just sort of, I think about everything way more, I think, than normal people. So when we go through change like this, it occurs to me in particular that, hey, this is a really big change. Like, I hope that we're taking the proper precautions in case this doesn't work out like we hope it will. And I'm starting to get really tired of society and all the naked women everywhere. Like, dude, it's crazy. You can't get away from seeing women, and it's like women, they don't. I don't. It's not their fault. Like, yeah, they don't get it, and they don't know what it feels like. Yeah, like, it's kind of annoying. Not gonna lie, it's kind of annoying. Like, why do I have to see? Yeah, I know they're out there. Like, they're not. It's not good enough for them to just do that for people in their life. No, they have to do it all the way across. Every website, every app that is social in its nature has to, oh look, 93. It's gotta be plastered with half naked women shaking their ass or whatever. And I like that as much as the next guy, but it's just like, sometimes I'm just not in the mood for it, man. It's like, what the hell? I don't want to see, like, seriously, every other one. Like, why is this the case? Why is this acceptable? And why, like, this, like, there are certain, these things are manifestations of problems, real problems, manifestations with women, problems women are having. This isn't normal. It's not normal to want to do this. And like the lobster woman laying on a plate, that's not normal. So like when I see this stuff, I'm alarmed. I'm alarmed. You know, and it's not a coincidence. You know, there's a lot of single women out there, and women, we know they need validation. It's not a bad thing. It's like, but you know, this society is so whacked out of it's so whacked that this is what you this is how things are manifesting, and these are pathologies that are manifesting. How women, they feel an urge to expose themselves in public, you know, and the same thing that's causing that is what's causing all of the female teachers taking advantage of boys. You know, that's what I'm saying, is that the teachers, the female teachers and teenage boys, that's a pathologized issue. And everybody knows it is. That's why they go to jail. But same thing with exposing themselves on the internet. It certainly doesn't bode well. It's not something that a content and satisfied woman does, that's for sure. And it's crazy. It kind of blows my mind a little bit. And it seems like people don't even say anything anymore, because I think in the past, men said something like, and we used to have society standards where women, you know, they covered themselves when they went out. And then they just, you know, they decided to hell with that. And I think men tried to, you know, like bikinis, people tried to say something and they just got shouted down and attacked. And then, you know how it goes. Men, when they try to put in their 2 cents on something, and if, you know, women, if they react a certain, like if they freak out like they do in certain, like abortion, no man is supposed to be able to talk in that conversation, which is crazy. It's absurd. But yeah, we learn our lesson, and then that shit doesn't happen anymore. And now it's like, because they won that original battle, anytime anybody brings that up, women don't hesitate. They go nuts and slam the door in your face. You know, it's like they don't even want to have that conversation. They think that somebody's trying to control them, and somebody wants to touch their body, and that's how feminists word it. They say they're trying to control your body. They want to own your body. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? No, they want to have a little bit more control over their own thoughts. You know, like, I don't want to have to think about, you know, naked women when I go outside or when I'm, you know, in public. It's crazy. It's outrageous. I mean, a lot of this stuff, it cannot stand. You know, it like, they get by, they make this stuff happen, but it's obvious that there's several things that are causing the decline, where it's like they cannot stand. If we continue to do it, they'll end, because we will end. You know what I mean? Like they're counterproductive behaviors. And that's one of them. And it's like, it's out of spite too. You know, when women do it, if you say anything about it, that's validating for them. That makes them feel good if it bothers you that they're dressed like that. And like, that's not good. Like they're doing it out of spite. That's one of their reasons. They're trying to prove something. It's tiring. Yeah, and it's like we're seeing like kind of a convergence of all this stuff at the same time.
So it's not exactly a recent claim that they're making on this. And what it allows is for the Spanish to control the Straits of Gibraltar. So I don't know how well I can show you, but so Gibraltar is just north of it, but Spain controls this area around it, so that is Spanish waters. So legally, through various international treaties, they have the control of the Straits of Gibraltar. And there are geostrategic reasons that people do not want Spain to have control of the Straits of Gibraltar. And this is the background to the Camp of the State-style invasion of Ceuta, which I'm sure you've all seen. This is the footage of the literally tens of...
I need to read that book, Camp of the Saints. I need to read that book because this is exactly what's taking place. We're being overrun by savages. Literally, might makes right. They come from the third world where it's a different world, man. And they're letting these guys in. It's crazy. You know, Africa, there's a pretty decent chance that somebody like me or a lot of white people, they'd go there and there's a good chance they wouldn't come back. And they don't like us. They see us as either a sucker or an easy mark, an easy victim.
Thousands of Moroccan men who've somehow just rocked up outside of this city. I mean, it's got walls. It's not like they can just walk in, but they've managed it. And now, I mean, that's literally the barrier is a small bit of ocean that they can swim around. And then,
you know, and another thing that goes with all this, all of the women, like, see naked pictures and stuff everywhere. It's very low IQ. What else can I say? It is very low IQ. Like when I was younger, in my late teens, early 20s, maybe even mid 20s, you know, like all men, yeah, you know, I was a bit of a horn dog, but it wasn't all I thought about. And it's not even close to all. Like I like to think about regular stuff. And the fact that all of our culture, everything's got shit. It's just curse words. Everybody curses. Everything is slop. Like, also, you know why they're doing those why they're destroying all those books? Because they can't use the internet to train the AI anymore. Because of all the fake AI garbage slop that's all over the internet. You can't train AI models on that anymore because you can't trust any of it. Half of the internet is AI slop, so they can't use it anymore. That's why they're buying up huge bulk used books and destroying them. Because well, first of all, everybody knows, you know, the internet is basically dead. And what is on the internet is slop. It's all garbage. It's all AI stuff. So now they're literally cannibalizing all of the real hard media that is ours, that are our possessions. They're destroying it and turning it into their possessions. What do you think they're doing when they destroy the hard copy? And that's why they're buying up stuff where there's only one copy left. What's up, Q? You know, they're buying up the rare stuff because they want to own it. They don't want anybody else to own it. They want to own it. And if they buy up if they get rare books like that, their AI model will know something that nobody else's AI model will know. I mean, consider that's what these guys are. That's what they're thinking. I mean, they have this in mind. They're in competition with these other AI companies, and they're willing to destroy historical records to beat them. but they're not willing to compete with Chinese AI companies. They're willing to steal or to buy up books and destroy them, the last copies of them, but they're not willing to compete on the free market with other AI companies. See, that's not capitalism, not even close. It's like, really, it's basically crony capitalism or fascism or communism, but it ain't capitalism.
What you're seeing there is live footage of the Danube in about 370 AD as the barbarians crossed.
Unironically, is a barbarian invasion. But it's remarkable, isn't it? It's like they're looking at Spain as the land of milk and honey. Really? Okay, fair enough.
No, Spain is just the entry point. Like I guarantee you they have no thoughts of staying in Spain. Maybe a few of them do. No, I didn't see it. I'm not into the comic books.
It's pretty rough in Morocco.
It's just convenient they can get in there. I mean,
it's the land of Black Pig.
Aaron Bastani will tell you that it's just Africa.
We'll get to that. Okay. We'll get to Aaron Bastani. We'll get to all the leftist reactions. But before we do, of course, go and get your copy of Islander 6 now. It's shop.losses.com. It's incredible. By Morocco. And now, I've seen reports that a lot of them are freed criminals pardoned by the king yesterday. I've been unable to corroborate this, so take it with a grain of salt. But
they're certainly not sending their best. We know that. We know they're not sending their best. They're sending their average and worst. Their worst are definitely coming over. Maybe there's some average with them, but none of their best.
Isn't that an interesting thing? If that is the case, that they basically have emptied their jails.
Like what Putin did against Ukraine.
Very much. And he's been trying to do it against Europe generally. I mean, Poland has a massive border wall because of all the Middle Easterners that Putin has been trying to send through Belarus across to them. And the same sort of thing that the Turks
should do that
Greece.
to Ireland.
There's no border. There's an open border. Anyway, so you've got this quite evident strategic maneuver that's going on through the Moroccan authorities using what appear to be criminals and other vagrant ne'er-do-wells who would go on this kind of march.
James Lee he's got a post here. Let me switch over to it right quick. He's got a post here where he's saying this is a psyop. Usually he's not an idiot. Usually he's on point.
Is anti-Zionist, so they want...
It's a lot worse than we thought. Spanish officials now estimate that nearly 50,000 migrants crossed into the city of Ceuta from Morocco in the last 24 hours alone.
Okay, this has to be the most obvious and blatant CIA Mossad psyop of all time. First off, the area that we're talking about is actually a Spanish enclave on the continent of Africa, so quite easy, logistically speaking, to transport tens of thousands of people. Which, getting to the PSYOP part, Marco Rubio was literally talking about this a couple months ago, calling for Morocco to quote-unquote take back their land. And who else was talking about this? Israel, of course, because the current government of Spain is anti-Zionist, so they want to sow discord, they want to create chaos in Spain to try...
Yeah, because basically the Strait of Gibraltar, it's like a Strait of Hormuz. It's a really important sea lane that Spain controls. They control who goes in and comes out of the Mediterranean. That means they control who can ship what to Israel. If Spain wants to stop Israel from getting weapons, they can totally do it. And that's, this isn't a coincidence. That's exactly why they're going for this enclave, because it's basically that enclave makes the Strait of Gibraltar Spanish territory. It makes that the ocean Spanish territory. And without the Ceuta or Ceuta, without it, they wouldn't be able to enforce they wouldn't be able to stop the ships because they wouldn't have that water, the international. It would be the water inside the international water. So that's why this is happening. And Spain has had that enclave for since the 1400s. They've had that for almost a millennium, a long time.
to overthrow their government. Netanyahu's son literally tweeted about this. Okay, there's absolutely nothing organic about this crisis. So why is it happening? A, because they want to punish Spain for being one of the first European nations to recognize the state of Palestine. Spanish fans were literally celebrating their World Cup win a couple weeks ago by waving the Palestinian flag. So Israel and America not happy about this. And B, despite Marco Rubio fomenting the initial invasion, the White House gets to now spin this as some sort of migrant crisis that is about to hit American shores because of Joe Biden and the Democrats, and also Marxism. This is a test for the American public. Will they fall for yet another blatant psyop?
I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of weary of it already. Like I see it's bad, and I agree it's bad. It's like, but you know, I'm certainly skeptical and looking around and checking everything, making sure that everything's copacetic, and seeing all the stuff that's out of place. There's a lot of stuff that's out of place that's doesn't seem right.
Videos like this, and running through the streets, and then just some white woman welcoming them all in.
Yeah, what was that about?
Yeah, I said she should be charged with treason. I don't really see why not. You're helping an enemy, isn't it?
I just don't see how you would characterize this as anything other than an invasion, right?
Exactly.
I mean, was she genuinely doing that, or what was going on?
I've no idea.
She was doing.
She's videoing it.
She's videoing it. Yeah. But then she's waving them in.
This is good content for her
unless
Instagram.
She's doing it ironically, saying, "Oh, just come on in," but I don't think so.
Doubtful. Yeah.
Doubtful, isn't it? No, until we recognise it's an invasion, we're just going to lose the West. But will any country do that? The only one I've seen saying it is Italy, saying something about closing the border and getting out of the Schengen area or something. That's the only thing I've seen so far.
Well, we'll get to all of that.
Oh, okay.
But the point is, how would you characterize this other than an invasion? Like this, if you went back 500 years, all of these would be the Sultan's men. And they literally invaded Spain 1,000 years ago. Like the Sultan's men, they'd be armed, they'd be in ranks, and there'd be exactly those sorts of guys invading a foreign country.
A medieval army was often just grab your pick, Charlie off the farm, we're going to war. It wasn't necessarily a trained soldier, it was just an ordinary person.
But these are just young men who are invading a foreign country.
Did you see there was some footage of like lots of people walking through countryside and through hillside, actually walking to Ceuta as well?
Yes.
That's been going on.
Yeah. It's like why they all decided all at once from all over Morocco. Today was the day. Exactly. There's got to have been some coordination there.
Yeah, it's been planned.
Of course. Google button. And Nick, he had a few good things to say too, actually.
Images, it is truly and I'm sure you've seen it. It's all over social media. It is truly shocking and dispiriting to see these videos. In case you missed it, today in a city called Ceuta, which is Spanish territory, it's a Spanish enclave in northern Africa. So it's not actually, contrary to what a lot of people believe, Ceuta is not on the European mainland. When you think of Spain, you think of the territory on the mainland of Europe, the Iberian Peninsula. Ceuta is in northern Africa. It's a small city that Spain held onto, and it shares a border with Morocco in northern Africa. And today, for whatever reasons we'll get into, typically there's a huge fence around the city to prevent Arab Muslims from Morocco from invading the city. And it has been the case over many years that there is always a giant mass of people gathering literally at the gates, at the fence, waiting to pour into the city. They've built fences and walls. They have surveillance. They have cops, because this is a persistent problem, that you'll have these poor, broke Arab Muslim peasants in Morocco. Their country is dirt poor. The GDP per capita in Morocco is like $3,000. And so these broke, desperate savages from Morocco, they gather at the gates of the city in northern Africa, Spanish territory, and they try to breach the gates. They try to get in. And over the years, sometimes they do. And sometimes a few hundred will breach the gates and they'll be returned. And there was a famous incident a few years ago where about 8,000 breached the gates and entered the city. Today, I'm sure you've seen it, upwards of 40,000 Arab Muslims jumped over the fence, breached the fence, crossed by sea, and invaded the city. And you've just got to see the videos and the images. It is truly disturbing and shocking and scary. This is a small city with a small population. I believe it's only 5,000 to 10,000 people that live there as permanent residents. Tens of thousands of Arab Muslims breaching the gates, crossing by sea, invading the city, storming the beaches, running through the streets, setting cars on fire, trying to break into people's houses. It's literally an invasion. But it's not by military force or not wearing uniforms, carrying guns. It's a racial invasion. This city ordinarily is about 60% Spanish Catholic, 40% Arab Muslim. Overnight, the Spanish are now outnumbered, overwhelmed. This territory has effectively been seized by Moroccan Muslims. And surely all the Spanish people that live there will now have to flee. Their city's been captured. I said. And this is something that we've seen all too often. We see it on the beaches in Spain. We see it on the beaches in the islands of Italy. And what makes it worse is, of course, these Arab Muslims, they'll land on the islands, they'll land in the exclaves in northern Africa. Sometimes they'll even make it to the European mainland. And once in some of these countries that have the more lax immigration policies or the weaker borders, because these European countries are part of the Schengen zone, which means that they don't have to present a passport flying between countries, then it's just a jailbreak into the rest of Europe. So these African or Arab migrants, they'll land at an island, they'll land in an exclave, they'll land in mainland Europe, and then they'll make their way to the countries that have the most generous welfare system. So maybe they'll land in Italy, but they'll wind up in Sweden, or they'll land in Spain and they'll wind up in Germany. And they're able to go into the rest of Europe because they're part of the Schengen zone, and then they'll just simply go to the country that has the most generous benefits, the country that is the most refugees welcome, that is the most diversity is our strength. These rapists.
And they may as well be a kid in a candy store. Like I said, where I keep saying that might makes right where they come from. And these are military-aged males. They're going to take what they want. And they're not going to work for it. Like, do those guys look like they're the future workers of Europe? Production capacity is going to rise in Europe. They're going to crank out more Mercedes-Benzes. Okay. Yeah, I thought it was pretty good too. I didn't watch it all, but I watched
some savages, these peasants.
He kind of said a lot of what I was saying. I felt really pleased. I felt really good about it because I was like, shit, man, I hit all those points myself. Excellent.
Will wind up in these countries taking from the people that live there. And think about what is happening to the civilization. Who do you think pays for the benefits, by the way?
Not them.
These people come from dirt poor, broke, dysfunctional countries. They wind up in Germany. They wind up in Sweden. And what do they do when they get there? They get their free housing. They get their free healthcare. They get their free education. They get their free food and free everything.
Shit, we saw the one guy broke his arm getting over the fence. And the first thing, he breaks his arm and he's already asking for free I don't need any food. I don't need any of this and that. Just fix my hand. Just fix my arm. Like, bro. Are you kidding me? He comes over with nothing on him, nothing in his pocket, and breaks something, and then, and that's why they brought nothing. It's like, well, if anything happens, we'll chalk it up to the Westerners. They'll pay for it. They'll hook us up, reimburse us. Like, what the hell, man? For a fact, his hand is already in a cast. I'm sure they already fixed it.
Of course, nothing in this life is free. Somebody had to build those houses. There's a landlord that owns them. Somebody has to grow the food and distribute the food. Somebody has to build the hospitals and buy the MRI machines and so on. So who's paying for all this stuff? You are. If you live in Europe, you're paying for this. If you live in Europe where the tax burden is sometimes as high as 50% or sometimes higher, 50% of your income is taken, what does that functionally mean?
Nothing.
It means that if you are a white person living in Europe, your ancestors have been in that territory, in that land for thousands of years. They fought and bled for the kingdoms and principalities. They fought and bled in the great wars, fought and bled in the wars of religion or nationality. They industrialized your country. You go to work half of the year and the money goes to the government. The government gives it to disgusting third worlders that invaded last week because of some bureaucratic loophole, because of the Schengen zone. Some African.
And like I was saying, how they they say you elect them for some reason. They say, yeah, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And I've been saying like, and then when it comes down to the showdown, they're not there. They're not ready. And they don't do anything. And yesterday there was a perfect example of that. They like tried to call it a national emergency or something. And then some scumbag bureaucrat comes out and says, oh, no, we can't do that. Sorry. Only acts of God, only weather events, earthquakes and hurricane. Only those are designated. You can only have a natural or a state of emergency if there's a natural disaster, a weather event. And that's a perfect example of what I'm talking about. Does anybody give a fuck what the law says a state of emergency is dedicated for? It's like, dude, you're the guy who makes the law. Change the law. We don't give a shit what the law says that a state of emergency is for. We think this is a state of emergency. Fuck that law. Change it. Who are you not the guy in charge? Are you not the guy that can do this? Or do we need to get somebody else? Like, what the fuck? They always have some bureaucratic excuse, and it's like, bro, we don't want to hear that. Somebody who actually cared, people that actually wanted to lead, they wouldn't say that kind of shit. They would just go figure it out and get it done. They think that's the kind of shit we want to hear. Bro, we don't have those laws to tie our own hands. Those laws are to help us when we need help. It's not to force us to handle a fucking invasion. Like, what are the laws in the government for? Are they to help us and to make life better? Are they to hinder us and to snuff us out of existence? I mean, obviously, it's not to help us. And every time we cry for help, there's some loophole, there's some reason why we have to just sit still and take it. Always. That's our lot in life, apparently. Like, who did we offend, man? Who did we offend? What have we done to deserve all this? Why are plagues of locusts descending on us? Eating us out of hearth and home.
In from Chad, from Congo, from wherever. They're put up in a house, they're given healthcare, they're given education, they're given food. You are working 6 months out of the year, from January to July. Every dollar, every cent that you earn in those months, when you go to work day in, day out, it goes to the government so the government can give it to them. While they rape and pillage, while they are disrespectful, while they shit in the street, while they do drugs, while they take your country from underneath you. It is the most horrific, disgraceful injustice.
It's evil.
It is a crime that is happening in the world today. It's a demographic transition of the global south, of the third world, moving north and invading the countries. And so we saw this play out today in the city called Ceuta. Again, maybe, arguably, fortunately, this is happening in North Africa, not the mainland, thank God. But the Africans have invaded Ceuta. This is a story about it from the New York Times. It says, quote, thousands of migrants climbed over a border fence or swam onto the shores of Spain's North African enclave of Ceuta on Thursday, prompting a mobilization of the Spanish military. In recent days, 1,500 migrants had entered the city, a 6-mile-long peninsula on Morocco's northern coast that Spain has governed for centuries. At least 18 people have died attempting to enter the territory. The arrivals were so numerous that the Spanish government on Thursday evening said that it had mobilized its armed forces to reinforce the police in Ceuta. It said in a statement that it was dispatching military platoons to enforce border security, increasing air and naval support, and sending diving teams to patrol the waters. Fernando Contreras, an official in the government, said the working estimate for the number of people who had crossed was in the tens of thousands, although that figure cannot be confirmed. Tens of thousands of people going across all at once. It was unclear on Thursday evening what had prompted the latest amassing of people in Ceuta. Analysts said it was too soon to draw conclusions, but that Morocco, which controls migration flows across the border, may have been upset about Spain's recent efforts to deepen ties with Algeria. So the big question, of course, is why? Why is this happening? How is this being allowed to happen?
Yeah.
It's a visceral reaction. There's something viscerally upsetting about seeing this. Well, let's just talk about that in general before we get to some of the causes. I think what is so viscerally upsetting is because we recognize the helplessness and the irreversibility of the situation. Exactly. These people are invading these countries. The government will not protect us. The government will not turn them away. The government will not remove them. And we cannot do it either. We are powerless to stop it too. If we try to kill these people,
the government is the one doing it, I feel like. And like I said yesterday, they're holding us down so that the migrants can beat us. And that's exactly what Nick said too. I was just thinking like, man, I was on point with that. Like, I'm surprised everybody else said the same shit I did. Just kind of pleased about that. Oh shit.
If we try to defend our homes and our communities and territories, the government will arrest us. So think about that. In the United States, we had something similar going on for 4 years under Joe Biden. You had caravans and hordes of people, 10 million, 40,000 in this exclave in Northern Africa. You had 10 million come across the southern border in 4 years under Joe Biden. The federal government will not protect our country, will not stop them, will not turn them away, will not physically remove them if they breach the border. And so they're here, and we're stuck with these people.
We're stuck
These people don't like us. They're not like us. They don't speak our language. They don't share our culture. They are cognitively inept. Their average IQ, if they're coming from Venezuela, is 85. They have no skills. They have no education. They have no respect for our laws or our customs. They have no history in this country. They come here and they cause problems. They steal from the drugstores and then they sell the goods on the streets. They break into cars, break windows and steal what's inside of them. They do carjackings. They take over apartment complexes. They're kidnapping the cats and dogs and eating them. And we can't do anything about it. They're on the highways, driving on the wrong side of the road. They're in the parks, jacking off and shitting in the streets. They're in the schools. And we can't do a thing about it. We can't kill them. We can't protect ourselves. We can't gang up as vigilantes and keep them out of our communities or out of our cities. If we tried to, we would be arrested. Yeah. If we tried to do that, if we, the people, tried,
we would be straight up thrown in jail over that. And we all know as much. And if we weren't thrown in jail, we would have the Antifa shock troops trying to execute us in the street. It's
tried to take up arms as a militia and turn these people around, we would go to jail. And not only would we go to jail, we would go to jail expeditiously. Government says we can't possibly turn all these people away. We can't possibly deport all these people. There's a backlog and there's a process and it's too hard.
Why do they think we give a shit about what the excuse is? When we say we want something done, why do they think we care about some technicality? It's like, dude, just change it. Fix the technicality. We told you what we want done. We want it done. We don't want to hear reasons why you can't do it. We want to hear that you're doing it. Like, they couldn't build the water wall, of course. I mean, everything is this way, where we just get to hear about how they can't do it. You know, they'll requisition the money and everything and then say, oh, we can't do it. Oh, and we spent the money too. So, whoops.
If a group of vigilantes did something about these predators and opportunists and invaders, the FBI, the NSA, the flock cameras, Palantir, they would organize an orbital strike from Starshield. There would be a rod of God dropping on the headquarters if vigilantes, God forbid, try to turn these people away.
Seriously.
Government cannot, will not secure the border, but if the people try to do it, they would be hunted down with drones and heat-seeking missiles practically before they even had the thought, before their mind would be read by.
You know, in our society, it's every human has value. You know, it's a crime to kill any human in the West. If you killed a person, you know, in Africa or something and and got away with it, people would it would bother people in the West. That would damage your reputation. I mean, it would be a big deal. Anywhere, you know, we're not allowed to, if we hurt anybody, we would either go to jail in the US, even if they weren't a citizen, any of that stuff. Whereas if we go to their country, if I went to Morocco, do you think that their society feels the same way, or do you think they could probably kill me and throw me in a ditch and it would be fine? And that's what I mean about the differences in culture. Our culture, everything all over the world it's the same in our country as it is all over the world. People would expect we would be expected to treat everybody the same no matter where we went in the world. Do you think these Moroccans are going to treat Spaniards the same way they treat Arabs in Morocco or Muslims in Morocco? Like, and that's what I mean about like double standards and stuff. Like, they know not to act a fool in Morocco because of the laws and this and that. They know how to move. Whereas here, like in Morocco, they will get hurt if they do something. You know, they'll cut your hand off for stealing or whatever. And then they come here and they see people that, you know, they don't even get arrested. They might get a written arrest, or, you know what I mean? They get slaps on the wrist. And that just, that's an invitation to these types, you know, to the third world. They're thinking, what? Like, I could just take it for free and you're not going to do anything? Are you kidding? Hell yeah. I mean, it's just, and they're not going home. Our government would just as soon throw us in jail as deport these people.
Their Wi-Fi router, and the NSA and the Star Shield would deploy a heat-seeking missile at their house before they even fully formed the thought in their mind.
Seriously.
So it's this helplessness. We can do nothing about it, but then it's also the irreversibility. These people are here like a pestilence, and they will always be here. They will be here causing problems, menacing us, menacing the beaches, menacing the downtowns, menacing the women and the children and the young men, menacing the public transit, consuming all the resources, militating against us, bringing their alien culture. And we realize there's nothing that can be done. We are being held down.
You know, and there are so many people that think that the West has stolen from the whole world and this and that. So there's so many people that see us pissed off about this happen, and they think the world is right. You know, everything is right in the world, or, you know, you could use to be knocked down a peg or two. You're colonizing civilization. You had slaves, you're colonizers. So everybody but white people is smiling today. They got big smiles, big old shit-eating grins on their faces today. All the progressives, they're smiling big, man. I see them on X. They're cocky as a Bantam rooster, strutting around like like they've accomplished something. You know, we're such a small percentage of the world too. Imagine how many people, or how few people actually feel the same as we do. It's like, not only is it like we're losing the battle with our own people and our own government, but the rest of the world is like, yeah, this is what you deserve. Yeah, they should get to come to your country and take with both hands. Like, bro, this is what we're up against. It's like fighting dirty.
By the government, we are being paralyzed from stopping this. It's very similar to what happened to that young man in the United Kingdom who was stabbed by the Sikh. You might remember, I forget his name, but the young man who was stabbed to death by a Sikh carrying a knife. Police arrive, and instead of arresting the murderer, they begin handcuffing the victim because the murderer said the victim was racist. And I remember that because it was so symbolic. You realize the problem is not even the migrants. It's that the migrants are being allowed in and the government is suppressing the antibody response. We are being held down by our own government. We are being held down and paralyzed and disabled and preventing from doing everything to stop this. We are being arrested. We are being restrained and forced to watch as our country is raped and pillaged and annihilated by this human refuse. These people that all they do is take and destroy. They have no respect or appreciation. They cannot perpetuate or reproduce or generate anything that we have in Europe or the West. It's all going to be lost. It's all going to be destroyed. So there's this visceral reaction to seeing this happen. And this is when you get people radicalized. It even goes back to...
I fucking wish, bro. I wish this would get people radicalized. It won't. It won't. Nobody's going to do a fucking thing, bro. They're going to go to work tomorrow just like yesterday. Every day they're going to do the same thing. This isn't going to radicalize anybody. Come on now.
My conversation with Hunter Biden. They look at my popularity and they say, why am I popular despite my rhetoric? I say, I'm popular because of my rhetoric. They say, is it because of the economy? Is it because the young men don't have economic opportunities? Is it because of housing is out of reach for millennials and Gen Z? They say it has obviously nothing to do with this. It has everything to do with this. This is everything to do with it. Tucker Carlson says famously that immigration and race and religion are not real problems. He says it's all economics. It's the tax rate.
I mean, I think it is all tied to economics. I mean, the immigration isn't just happening for no reason. It's not a coincidence. The immigration has been a tool and it's been a symptom of capitalist corporations and businesses and capitalism. I mean, or at least the Western version, and it's all a function of big business. This immigration, nothing more. This, the women entering the workforce, same thing. It's a function of big business. We've got a lot of good from big business, but we've also gotten our share of bad too. And honestly, it's like, I'm not so sure that the good outweighs the bad, like with industrialization. I'm not so sure that good outweighed the bad even for that. And that was just the steam engine, like I'm not sold on everything, not even close, it remains to be seen if it was worth it.
Really? Last week, Tucker Carlson said on his show,
actually, GQ, life is cheap unless it's yours. Not in the West. Not in the West. All lives are valuable in the West, except for infant or, babies in the womb. Their lives aren't valuable. But yeah, in the West, that isn't how it is. Life isn't cheap here. And that's why when they get here, it's like they're like a kid in a candy store, because they're used to the punishments of the wilderness. They're used to living in a place where life is cheap. And then they come here and our worst punishments are, they laugh at them.
It's not about race. It's not about immigration. It's not about religion. These are issues that are used to divide us. The real problem is the tax code, he says. No, Tucker, the real problem is 40,000 Muslim migrants invading Spain. That's the real problem. The real problem is that Northern Africa, Libya, Algeria, Morocco, as well as the Middle East through Turkey and Syria, they have opened up. And Africans and Arab Muslims are pouring into the civilized white West.
I mean, and essentially when they open up like that and they just let their civilization pour out into ours, that's quasi-conquest. I mean, that is conquest. They know what they're doing. how, I mean, if it's like a one-way, it's like a blood or a membrane, you know, where people, but you know, membranes are meant to divide. They only let some chemicals or some substances through the membrane, and they keep others out. Well, that's what these borders with these third world countries are. They come in through one side, they come into our side, but we don't go through their side. And when you have osmosis like that, you lose. We lose. Our civilization ends. They have the initiative. They still, you know what I mean? Like they're not tired of modernity yet. They still have a hell of a lot of life to live, a lot of life in them. They haven't been drained of it. They haven't had the vampiric modern age suck them of their vitality yet. And they're coming over, and you know, the West is I'm not saying that the West is beaten or anything, but I mean, like, the West is we're in a weak moment right now. You know, we don't have that joie de vivre that we normally have, that sort of can-do attitude. We're kind of beaten down at the moment. We need a break. We need something to lift our spirits in the West. That's what I'm trying to say, is they have no such malaise, no such issues. We're in a malaise right now. They're not, and they're being flooded into our civilization. That's not good. Like, you know, we're struggling at the moment. Like, if they didn't come at all ever, and we weren't struggling with the migrants in Europe and in America, we would still be in a lot of trouble. We would still be in a hell of a lot of trouble right now with demograph and birth rate and this and that. And then now we have competition. Now we have a competitor that's vying for the land and the civil. They're trying to outbreed us for the land and the continent of Europe and America. You know, they're trying to displace us, and they'll do it too if we let them. They will absolutely do it. And it's like, dude, we're dancing with the devil here. I don't get what what do these businessmen think they're doing? Genuinely, like, what do these people think is going to happen? And honestly, I'm sure they think the same thing we think is going to happen. The difference is they see themselves benefiting from that outcome. And we, right, I mean, of course, see ourselves losing, profoundly losing. And these migrants, these invaders, this is all upside to them. Not only are they getting a better life and a better lifestyle, better standard of living, better standard of care, but they're going to get a bright, shiny Western civilization. They're going to get a brand new civilization, a brand new continent that we tamed. You know, like, it's not wild like Africa and South America. We tamed it and made it, you know, calm and where we have bees and flowers, all kinds of good stuff. It takes time and effort to tame wilderness in a continent and land. And they're not only it's like two birds with one stone. They're making out like highway robbers. They're making out like a Jay financier, a Jay banker.
Western world, raping and killing and taking and destroying and occupying. That's the problem. That has always been the problem. The problem is that African migrants are squatting in museums in Paris. The problem is that Muslim migrants are masturbating on the beaches in Spain. The problem is that 40,000 of them breached the fence and literally annexed an entire city overnight. And you say...
Yeah, and like, he's right with the annex a city overnight. Dude, they own that city. if there's no military going to come, how do they not own that city? There are more men that came over last night than there are natives in that city, in those cities.
Those issues aren't resonant. What's more resonant than that? That Netflix is $20 a month? He says those are issues used by the elites to divide us. Because otherwise, what? We would be holding hands with these people singing Kumbaya. We would be holding hands with these smelly Africans pouring into these countries. We'd be holding hands with these Muslims and their call to prayer, menacing the women and girls and children and young men. If it wasn't for the billionaire class, fuck you. And the reason Tucker doesn't see it that way and others don't see it that way is because they don't live where we live. They don't have to deal with these problems. If you live in one of the major cities, which almost all of you do because that's where most Americans live, you have to deal with these problems all the time. You have to ride the public transit. You have to live in the cheaper neighborhood where the diversity is. You're working those shitty jobs where those people are your colleagues and customers. You're sending your kids to those public schools where these people send their kids. This is a problem for us, and you realize it's not a diversionary tactic for the billionaire class. This is a lived experience of the people that are here. And we realize that our way of life is going away. And it's not our way of life, it's our purchasing power, ability to buy things. It's the cohesion, the cohesiveness of our society.
And make no mistake, that is what the fear that you feel in your stomach when you see that invasion taking place yesterday. That's what that fear is. That our way of life, just the percentage, the chance that our way of life is going to continue just went down yesterday. It went down, I don't know, at least a good 10, 20%. You know, the future got a little darker for all the West yesterday. I mean, truly. The odds that we win in this civilizational struggle, they just went down.
The level of civilization, the societal standards that we hold ourselves to, that we are polite, considerate, that we have an indoor voice, that we pick up after ourselves, that we don't shit in the streets.
That we construct new structure. You know, we expand, we push forward progress every day, every year. We maintain and replace things, build new. They don't do this stuff. They're living in the same adobe and mud brick shacks that Moroccans were living in 500 years ago. You know, like straight up, man, they haven't built anything since the Islam had its Renaissance. And they're coming over here. I mean, it's just like, bro, they're trying to replace us with, you know, a bunch of backwards barbarians. You know, like there's more difference genetically between us and them than there is between a wolf and a chihuahua. There's a bigger difference between us and Morocco or us and Negroes than there is between a chihuahua and a wolf. You know, we're further apart than a chihuahua and a wolf.
That even if we're not Christian, most people are culturally Christian, which means something more and more as we see these different attitudes coming here. It's everything. It's everything. That's the floor. Forget about purchasing power. That's the bare minimum. That's the floor that we're all standing on. So this is a call for people to take action. You see this happening in Europe and you realize immigration's the number one problem.
Well, that's what I was getting at there, Rick, is like, yeah, we're not in right now. Like, and I've said this before, like how trees are killed. You know, I work on trees. They never die from one cause. You know, the boring bugs that bore into the side of the tree and kill it. They can, the tree has it has defense mechanisms that it can stop them from from boring into them and killing them. Their sap drowns them out. But if there's a drought and there's these bugs, that's it. Their goose is cooked. And it's like, we could handle the economic downturn. We could handle the stuff that we're going through. No problem. If it was just that, but we're getting hit with the migrants and the downturn. And I don't think we have the wherewithal to handle both. And we're in this situation where we've changed our way of life. See, these people in the third world, they're living exactly the same as they have always lived for the past millennia. We're in the middle of this radical transition period where we're trying to figure out how, we've changed our culture and our society drastically. And now we're trying to figure out how to make it work. And we're having a lot of growing pains. People aren't having kids. There's a real problem. And not only that, we're being hit with this demographic pressure where they're breeding like crazy. I'm sure, they're still doing their thing. We're struggling with the cost of living, and we have to worry about getting replaced, getting bred out of existence, basically. How is it that we have to deal with all of these civilizational pressures? And they get to cannibalize the corpse. They get to, like sharks, feed on our dead corpse. It's incredible.
Something has to be done about it. I do want to talk a little bit about the geopolitical causes here, though, because, of course, it's very interesting. How does this happen? Why is this happening? And what is the timing of this? Why all of a sudden was there a jailbreak in Ceuta? Why did 40,000 Muslim migrants breach the gate all at once, and it happened to be today? It's a very interesting story, actually. And there are three major culprits. The three major culprits in this immigration crisis are the left-wing government of Spain itself. They are the Muslim Arab enemies of Western civilization in Morocco and Algeria. And it is the Jewish oligarchy which presides over Israel and the United States. These are the three culprits. This is the triangulation. They all have had a hand in this. Let's start with the left-wing government in Spain. Spain has a left-wing government. And contrary to many of the recently elected right-wing governments in Europe, like the AfD party or the Reform Party in Germany and the UK, respectively, Spain has a very left-wing regime right now that has tried specifically to defy the anti-migrant right-wing parties in the rest of Europe, in Italy, Germany, the UK. And so this left-wing regime in Spain has gone out of its way to promote diversity, to promote immigration, to make refugees and immigrants feel welcome. And there were two specific decisions that were made recently under this regime that made this possible. Number one, this left-wing regime in Spain recently made a policy that makes it more difficult to deport people specifically from this city. There are two Spanish enclaves in northern Africa.
It's incredible.
And the left-wing regime in Spain went out of their way to create a new policy that says when Moroccan migrants cross over the border illegally, they cannot be returned without a hearing, without a process. So the Spanish government introduced a policy where they actually made it more difficult to deport these people. Simultaneously, the Spanish Supreme Court recently...
When you hear stuff like that, I can't help but think that we're irrelevant. That we're just straight up irrelevant. What we want, it's irrelevant. Somebody out there or the government or whatever, they don't give a damn. Not only do they not care what we think, but they actively, it's like they want to hurt us. It's pretty incredible. Like you said, I mean, they know that we can't, this is killing us, like it's driving us insane. Those of us that haven't been brainwashed successfully. And it's like they're giving us no choice. They're really turning up it's like living in a pressure cooker. And we know that we can't do anything because they'll throw our asses in jail in a heartbeat. And it's like being in between a rock and a hard place, man. You know, we're getting savaged by these animals from northern Africa. And our government has a gun to our head telling us, don't you dare stop that savage from maiming and tearing your face off and eating your skin. Like, don't you dare. This is your lot in life. This is our lot, and this is what they've decided our end is going to be, or this is what they've decided. And there's no arguing with it. There's no debate. I mean, we're just kind of helpless. We're going to, like he said, you know, we're kind of like debt slaves. Like, yeah, a lot of us, it's like they feel like they can do anything to us. And I feel like they can do anything to us. That's what it feels like. They can do whatever they want. And that's not good. Like that, it's not supposed to be like that. They're not supposed to feel like they can get away with anything.
Ruled.
Like I just wish I knew what was in their mind. Like what actually is in their mind. Because maybe it's not that bad. Maybe they're just going about it in a wild way. Like, you know what? Like, it's possible that this is for some stupid innocuous stuff. Like, maybe they aren't trying to replace us, but no matter what, they have something in mind. This isn't just happening. None of it. Like, it's like we're getting sort of the screws put on us, you know? We're really getting hammered here.
100,000 plus illegal immigrants are now going to get a pathway to residency in Spain. The left-wing government in Spain said that we have all these illegal migrants living in Spain from Latin America, from Northern Africa. We might as well have them pay taxes. So due to left-wing policy and Supreme Court decisions in Spain, you now have impediments to deporting illegal aliens, and you also have an incentive for them to come here. Under this recently passed law, the illegal migrants that have lived in Spain up to 5 months before the passage of the law, they get a pathway to permanent residency. You don't think that contributes to illegal aliens trying to breach the borders? It only happens every single time. Every single time a left-wing government announces an amnesty policy or that they're going to suspend deportations, you always get an influx of illegal immigrants. It's not hard to understand why. It's like osmosis. It's like water settling at the lowest level. If you have a border between a rich country and a poor country, and the rich country has generous benefits, they're giving away free stuff, and they have no border, and they never deport people, then pretty soon the poor country is going to empty out into the rich country. And the border is just a porous membrane. This is what happens in the border between the United States and Mexico. The U.S. is one of the richest countries in the world. We give away free stuff. We don't have borders. We don't deport people. Mexico is one of the poorest countries. And to their south are even poorer countries in the Northern Triangle. So the poor people move to where the stuff is. The poor people come through the open border to take the free stuff, and they never get deported. Yep. And the more free stuff there is, and the more open the border is, and the fewer deportations there are, the more foreign nationals try to get in. And it's the same thing in these cities. In Ceuta, you have an actual land border between Spain and Morocco. Spain, a rich country, Morocco, a poor country. If Spain says we can't or won't deport you, and Spain also says if you get into the end zone, you get permanent residency, you get to live here forever, yeah, all the poor people are going to empty out into the rich country. So that's crazy. The left-wing government in Spain. That is the anti-white, refugees welcome, pro-diversity party in Spain that made this possible. And understand, the left, this makes them a civilizational enemy. They want to do the same thing in the United States. all these DSA progressives, all these Democrats, the ones backed by Mamdani, on every one of their campaign websites, it says abolish ICE, pathway to citizenship, universal health care, universal child care, universal education.
You know, this is nothing more than like, you know, how our civilization is like fought off communism, and that was the worst thing possible. You know, it was communism. It would destroy everything, and we dodged a bullet and this and that. We didn't dodge anything, man. It's like, that's what we're going through right now. Like, they couldn't do it with communism. They couldn't do it with a revolution. They couldn't do it by invasively spying on us and trying to take us down from within. Genuinely, how they did it was they went through Christianity, because our entire society is based on the Christian ethos. That's the foundation, that treat others as you wish to be treated, protect the weak from the strong. And they were able to somehow, or they were able to use that template, the weak versus the strong, to paint us as the strong, and to paint the third worlders and the people who hate us as the weak. And what we're fighting right now, all the institutions and our own people, women, we're literally fighting against our own ethos that has been corrupted, twisted, and half of our culture convinced that we're that we're their enemy, and that we've injured these people, and that to replenish them, to repair them, is to let them in and let them run amok. And they did it by leveraging what the ethos of our civilization. They used that sort of that, because it's in everything. It's in everything in the West. You know, the Christian do unto others. That's like the golden rule. You know, that we gave so much charity. It gave so much USA, or, you know, aid and foreign aid. And that's how they got us in the end, was by working on the weak-minded people in our society, working on them with propaganda and manipulation. They were able to successfully, like, because used to be our civilization was the same as these barbarians. You know, we took care of our own, and we didn't concern ourselves with barbarians and their civilizations. We left them. We donated a few things, but, you know, we gave them donated clothes, gave them some aid, but we saw them, you know, they take care of themselves. That's their lookout. But somehow, like all of our women, you know, they used to be on our side, you know, where they would choose us over them. They would care for us. You see women now, like with these dark eggplant Africans, and the women are just rubbing all over them and consoling them like a child. You know, oh, it's been a long journey, hasn't it? You'll be all right. And they did that by making these people, these crocodiles. They made them out to be as cuddly as a cat or something. And these women, they think that we are the barbarians, we are the predators, the criminals. Like, that's what we're contending against. It's not just, it's like we're contending against the Christian ethos. We're contending against people who think they're doing the right thing. That's the kind of fight we're in. It may as well be a religious, a spiritual struggle, because spiritually, in their minds, or in their spiritual part of their life, this is right and righteous, what they're doing and what they're advocating for. No no human is illegal. No human is illegal. Okay, maybe not illegal, but they don't belong here. That they're out of place and they got to go home. But like, that's the extent of this. This is a spiritual war, and it's pretty profound. It's not surface level. It goes pretty deep. And that's why we're struggling with it so much. That's why we're having such trouble dealing with it, because a lot of the institutions that we expect to be on our side aren't on our side. They're totally against us. You know, and it's like we just got jumped. We're getting jumped. We a bunch of different people we thought we're gonna have our back. Yeah, they're nowhere to be found. And we're getting our clocks cleaned.
The left wants this in the United States. They want it in Europe. Free education, free housing, free busing, free transportation, free everything. No deportations, no borders, no immigration police, and pathway to citizenship for everybody. That's what the DSA wants here. It's what Hassan Piker wants, Zohran Mamdani wants. That's what the left-wingers want in Europe. And if you have policies like that, you're going to get the invasion of Europe and the United States by the third world and the destruction. They're going to come in and they're going to eat everything. The second civilizational enemy is the Muslim Arabs themselves. It even says in the mainstream press, what explains the timing of these illegal migrants crossing the border? Well, it is Morocco that is in control of the border between Ceuta and Morocco. They control the immigration inflows and outflows from the city. It was actually their intentional negligence. They turn off the surveillance. The border guards stand down. Maybe they organize the illegal immigrants and send them in. And why did Morocco decide to do this? Well, Morocco has a bitter rivalry with neighboring Algeria. They're arch enemies.
They're good friends.
4 days ago, the Prime Minister of Spain visited Algeria for the first time in a long time. And the reason for this is because relations between Spain and Morocco are deteriorating. Morocco is a very close ally of Israel and the United States. Spain has recently become an enemy of Israel and the United States. So, looking elsewhere, Spain is looking to Morocco's rival, Algeria. Consequently, Spain is looking to rehabilitate.
Man, how influential is Israel? Like, just in the last year, it's like mind-blowing. They are so influential. Like, God forbid that they get control of the Middle East, man, because they'll own our asses. This is how influential they are when they have a tiny little plot of land, a little bit of stake money from America. They'll wheel and deal and get there. I mean, it's almost as if I feel like they could end up in possession of Europe themselves. It seems like anybody with some intellect and that was clever and had a few million people, a few million countrymen, or if they were in charge of a country of a few million people, they could take Europe. Like just from what you see, like what we've seen transpire, it's almost as if like we're begging, we're like trying to bait other civilizations into knocking us off. You know, it's ridiculous. Like what happened yesterday. It's like we're asking for somebody to invade us, or to do it, to explicitly invade, to take it, not just to come here and take shit, but to take it all and
facilitate their bilateral relations with Algiers. The Prime Minister visited Algeria 4 days ago. And 4 days later, Morocco turns a blind eye or maybe even promotes the invasion of a Spanish enclave by their own people, such that now those people are either going to be a real pain to remove or they will simply annex the territory and the territory will be theirs. This has also been a weapon of Muslim Arab countries for decades. Muammar Gaddafi, Erdogan in Turkey, they blackmail Europe by threatening to send Muslim migrants into the country. When the rest of the European Union and NATO would not do the will of Turkey, President Erdogan of Turkey would threaten to open up the floodgates of migrants from the Middle East into Europe. He said, we'll just open up the borders and we'll send a million.
You know, and also, too, the people in charge and half of our population, it's like as long as these countries don't declare war on us and they pretend that they're communist, these people will let them do whatever they want. It's short of, coming with guns. These people will welcome them in with open arms. Like they'll even if they're coming to take our stuff or coming to conquer us, if they just don't explicitly say that, it's like we'll let them right in and let them have it. Let them have everything. You know, and a lot of Western women will be cheering it on at first. And it's crazy. It's like they don't even fathom that the future, it may not look like a utopia, human lives are valuable utopia. What if it ends up being like some insane dystopia where we're enslaved by Muslims? Like, do these women, do these progressives think that that's totally out of the realm of possibility? Because it isn't. I can assure them it is not. And they just seem to be like totally oblivious that there are people that don't necessarily have our best interest at heart, and they just seem to be oblivious of that. They think that you can neutralize that with kindness or with fake virtue signaling. It's crazy.
Into Europe if you don't do what we want. This is Muslim Turk Erdogan, head of Turkey. Gaddafi would do the same. Once Gaddafi fell, Libya opened up and all the sub-Saharan Africans poured into Europe. For them, this is like policy. Morocco is promoting the invasion of Spain. They're using their own people as a weapon. And they love to see it. They're going to take Spanish territory with their foot soldiers. They're going to send them into mainland Spain. They're going to send them into all these countries. They see themselves. This is how they see themselves.
You know, when you look back in history at when systems fail, it's when they encounter, when a system encounters a problem that it isn't equipped to handle, or that it can't move fast enough to handle it. That's when systems fail. When they come up against a situation that either they don't have the ability to fix it, or for whatever reason, the gears don't mesh and it like gets locked up when it goes to respond. And it's like, when you look at our civilization and look what's like, we can't respond to this invasion because our government and our women and half of our population, we want to do something about it, and we would vigilante up and do something about it if we could. Like, this system is about to fail because we can't address problems. Even if we wanted to address this problem, no, we wouldn't. No, but people would not let us do it. These are big problems, and we have to just kind of watch it helplessly do its thing. And it strikes me that is what we're on. Like, that's going to destroy us. This is what's going to destroy us. That our government won't do anything about it, and we're not allowed to do anything about it. Like, we're not physically able to respond to this problem as a civilization. Our elites forbade it. It's not allowed. We're not allowed to even complain about it. And half of our people, like the other half of the population would fight us to the death over this. You know, and we're just going to keep getting hammered by this till either we wake up or it destroys us.
Moroccans see themselves as a biological weapon. We're going to pour into your country as a punishment. We're going to send our fellow Muslims into your country as a punishment because we know they're going to cause chaos. We know they're going to take without giving. We know they're going to create civil strife between your own people in your country. So make no mistake about it. This is Moroccan policy. This could not have happened without the government in Rabat co-signing it. They opened up the borders. Arguably, they organized and assembled the migrants at the gates, pushing them into the city. It's a deliberate Muslim invasion of the enclave. So they play a role too. These people are not our friends.
Hell no.
Like any other country, they're looking to conquer and colonize and occupy and take territory. So, of course, Muslims are the other civilizational.
Even if they're not looking to take territory, they are beneath us. You know, economically and in all kinds of ways. They're looking to siphon off resources from our, no matter what. They're looking, no matter what their plan is, no matter why they let those, or they had those migrants do that, they are trying to get resources from us. There or get rid of people that will use up their resources. No matter what, they are trying to take from the West, to take from Europe, to take from America for themselves. It's a naked power or play for resources, and they can't lose. It's like they can't not get something, even if it's just medical care for those people. No matter what, this is like a move to take from us, to subtract from our wealth and add to theirs. You know, that we're certainly not benefiting or getting anything out of this. They're not sending over people that want to work and start a life and raise a family. They're sending over hooligans, criminals.
They are the ones that are actually doing the invading, doing the replacing, and they're the ones that are going to make these places unrecognizable. They're totally incapable of creating a high standard of living like we have here. Their crime, their rape, their call to prayer, their violence, their clannishness. They're completely alien.
And don't forget, they're like, you know, when you look at the third world, the reason why it's still the third world is because it is totally acceptable to those people. If it wasn't acceptable, they would have done something about it. But, you know, it's like people that they can live in a pigsty. You know, some people can live in a pigsty and some people can't live in a pigsty. We can't live in a pigsty. They can. The more of those people we get, the closer to their standard we get. You know, like, and we can't stand those, you know, trash in this, all this and that. They're fine with it. It's their way of life. Trash on the street doesn't bother them. They don't mind living in a place where their women aren't safe to go walk on the street or walk on the sidewalk. That's how they want to live. That's their way of life. And we're sharing our civilization with a group of people that are not going to uphold our standards in any way, shape, or form. They're not going to uphold our standards as it comes to like way of life, like keeping yourself, you know, clean and cleaning up after yourself. They're not going to abide by any of our laws. They abide by Sharia law, even if they live in England. Like, and that's what I meant. Like, you end up getting these two separate civilizations in one, side by side. And it's like, you battle it out with them, you know, and they get their enclaves and then we get ours. You know, we have all this land and when they move in, they get a chunk of it and we just, you know, evacuate the area and leave it to them, leave them to their own devices. And then they create these enclaves that are cookie cutter. They're the exact standard of life from where they came from. Exact standard of life. My little brother, he went to Africa like a year and a half ago, and he was telling me that the kids there, they were, they're really into soccer there. And he said, he's like, how what they play with, because they can't afford a soccer ball or whatever. Or, well, I'll tell you the reason, but they can't afford a soccer ball. He says, so they take grocery bags, plastic grocery bags, and they one bag at a time build up, and like they put them on super tight. And then they just play with a ball that's made of grocery bag layers or plastic bag layers. And my brother said he felt, he wanted to get him a ball. So he went up and got him a nice soccer ball. And he said, and he's like, why don't you have a ball? And they're like, well, because they have all those thorn bushes. And they said that if, by the end of, within a day, the ball gets popped and they don't have the ball anymore. So he bought him that ball, and he said within a couple hours he came back and it was gone. They were playing with the plastic thing again. And he said he fixed it. He fixed the ball for him, and it was popped again. And he told him over and over, don't use it. I forget what he said. Don't only use it in certain places, away from the bush or the thorns, away from glass and stuff. And he gave it to one kid, and he told the kid specifically, you hang on to this ball and don't use it in such and such place. And they popped it a couple times, and they just, and then it was gone. And then they came back begging him for another ball. And he's like, I mean, I get why you're playing with a plastic bag ball now, because the point I'm trying to make is they're fine with the plastic bag ball. And you getting them a new ball, it doesn't mean anything to them. They don't give a damn about the ball. They're going to play with it how they play. And if it gets popped, oh well. They don't actually care about the ball. Like, it's fun, but they're not going to pay for it. They're not going to waste their money, but they'll beg somebody to waste their, and my brother was saying, it's like, nothing I said mattered. It didn't matter. It didn't matter they gave it to one kid. They just didn't care. It wasn't that serious for them to where they'd get another ball and where they'd actually take care of that ball. And that's a good example of these civilizations all of the way around. They have a certain standard, and there's nothing we can do to change that. There's no amount of freebies that progressives can give away. There's nothing that we can do. They're never going to have our sensibilities. They're never going to have our scruples. I mean, they're never going to abide by our laws. They're never going to see us as equals to them. And there's a lot of foolish people that don't understand human nature, and don't, they insist on trying to fix human nature, which is impossible. And anybody with any sense figures that out by 30. That people, there's certain things about people you can't fix.
Cultural character. If they have it their way, not only will our countries be unrecognizable, they will be far worse, far poorer, far more dirty, far more violent and chaotic. Look at how they drive in Cairo. Look at how they live in Yemen.
And these kind of people, they live with goats and stuff. That's, they're used to living sort of in a state of nature. That's why they're fine with littering, because that's nature. Nothing that they throw on the ground is out of place, because they're an animal living in the state of nature, and animals don't litter. Animals don't litter. You know, and that's why they litter, because they're not much better than a goat.
Don't live like us. The third culprit here, and the third civilizational enemy, is Israel and their influence in the United States, because there's another geopolitical dimension to this as well. We talked a little bit about it at the top of the show and a little bit about it with regard to Morocco. 6 years ago, Morocco became one of the countries that joined the Abraham Accords. 4 Muslim countries in the first administration of Donald Trump recognized Israel's sovereignty and existence in exchange for benefits from the United States and opening up bilateral relations with Israel. So in 2020, under Trump, Morocco recognized Israel's existence.
Isn't it funny how they spin the Abraham Accords into some bullshit agreement that shows how honorable and how honest dealing the Israelis are, and shows how modern and understanding Egypt is, and how that they finally buried the hatchet. They can finally live alongside each other and this and that, when really it's all just some crooked ass backroom deal to make it so that Israel can have more influence over the world and do more crooked shit to us. You know, it's really crooked. They took our tax dollars. They promised to give Egypt and North Africa a shit ton of our money that we earn, that we work for, so that they would, make nice, bury the hatchet with Egypt, or not Egypt, Israel. And only because they're giving them our tax dollars. It's not because of any burying the hatchet or any goodwill or honor or any of that. It's all for money, and it's all at our expense. And it's supposed to be some special, oh, this is a great diplomatic achievement. You mean you bought them off? You bought their government off? Is that's supposed to be some diplomatic achievement? You stole money from us at the point of a gun and installed puppets. That's supposed to be a diplomatic achievement? Well, pardon me if I don't celebrate it.
Morocco and Israel deepened their bilateral intelligence, security, and economic ties, and Morocco became a major and significant and important ally of Israel. Well, recently, you may know this, Spain, almost on exactly the same timeline, has become an enemy of Israel. Because as it so happens, because Spain has a left-wing government, the same left-wing government that opened up the borders to immigrants is also supportive of Palestine. And so ever since October 7th, these same left-wingers in control of Spain, they've also been extremely hostile to Israel, Israel's government, and oppose Israel's war in Gaza. And so the Spanish ministers have called for Netanyahu's arrest. The left-wing Spanish regime has implemented an arms embargo against Israel. The left-wing Spanish government refused to allow a ship bringing weapons to Israel to dock at a Spanish port. And this has incensed the Israelis. But not just the Israelis, also the Israelis' allies in America. Because, of course, Israel also controls the United States, and specifically the Republican Party and the right-wing government in Trump's second term. And there's something very interesting that happened a few months ago. In April of this year, just a few months ago, in the congressional record, the House of Representatives did a report about the security situation in Morocco, and it said that those 2 Spanish enclaves, those 2 Spanish cities in northern Africa, Ceuta is one of them, the one that's being invaded right now. The Republican House report said that those 2 territories are Moroccan territory occupied by Spain. Wow. And the report says that the State Department under Marco Rubio should see to it and facilitate the return of those territories to Morocco. That's a House Republican report on these cities, on these Spanish cities in Morocco. Now, what do you think accounts for the change? Why do you think?
Like I said earlier, that is a strategic choke point, is that strait, the Strait of Gibraltar. And those two enclaves that he's talking about, those are directly responsible for them having control over that important choke point. So it's definitely not a coincidence. I mean, maybe Israel might be eyeing that. What if they got a hold of the Strait of Hormuz and the Strait of Gibraltar? They would be running the show for like half the world, pretty much.
Is that the Republican Party in the United States wants to see Spain punished and Morocco rewarded. That's a policy change from the point of view of the United States. The Republican Party is instructing the State Department to change our policy towards Spain and Morocco and say that we should promote the conquest of Spanish territory by Morocco, saying that that's occupied Moroccan territory pursuant to some treaty from the 18th century. Well, it's very obvious to see. The reason Republicans support the invasion of the Spanish cities
is for Israel.
Is they're doing this on behalf of Israel. They're promoting Morocco's core security interests, punishing Spain at the expense of their core security interests, because Spain is an adversary of Israel and Morocco is a security ally of Israel. And we know this.
You know, it's like we're in a sinking ship and we're trying to bail water out of the ship. Meanwhile, there's the same group of people with the same buckets bailing the same amount of water out of this or back into the ship. You know, we're fighting against ourselves. Like, we can't, there's somebody there bailing out or bailing into the boat as exactly as much water as we are bailing out of the boat. And we have a hole, you know, we're shipwrecked. We have a hole in the ship. That's where we're at. And we're like freaking out and worried because we know that's where we're at. We're sinking. And yesterday was a little, you know, more water taking on more water. And yeah, it's like there's nothing we can do about it. We just get to sit here and drown and think about drowning.
Because the State Department did the same thing in 2020. As part of the deal for Morocco to recognize Israel, the United States and Israel recognized Morocco and its claim over Western Sahara, another disputed territory in northern Africa. And so the U.S. and Israel effectively gave Morocco disputed Spanish territory in 2020. This was Morocco's reward for recognizing Israel. Now the Republicans are back in power 6 years later, and they say the same thing. Go ahead, Morocco, take Spain's 2 remaining cities in northern Africa. This is your reward for being loyal to Israel. This is Spain's punishment for being disloyal. It's also worth noting, as Netanyahu carries out the ethnic cleansing in Gaza, one of the big questions hanging over the security situation there is, what do we do with all the Palestinians in Gaza? Where are we going to put them? You got 1.5, 2 million people that are clearly miserable and hate Israel and militating against them. What are we going to do with them? Where are we going to put them? Do we push them into the Sinai Peninsula? Egypt will not allow that. Egypt is putting their military on the border to prevent them from going there. Where else can we send them? Well, one of the countries that was under consideration was Morocco. The Trump administration said maybe we will have Morocco take the displaced Palestinians, and in exchange, we'll give Morocco more territory. In exchange, we'll do things for Morocco. Maybe this is part of that deal. Whether it is or it isn't, it shows this is the kind of mindset behind the policy making and decision making in Washington and Israel, which is using Morocco, a Muslim Arab ally under this monarchical dictatorship, and also using it to punish one of their left-wing liberal enemies in Europe, in Spain. And so that's the third civilizational enemy, is that somebody opened up the gates here. Somebody opened up the gates of Toledo and let the Muslims pour in and conquer and invade Europe. And as always, it is the Jews. So it's the left-wing government in Spain that promotes refugees welcome, makes it harder to deport these people, incentivizes them to come here through permanent residency. It's the Muslims that are pushing their own people as a biological weapon to go out and conquer Europe. But in the end, it's Israel and its Jewish allies in the United States. They're really the ones that are opening the gates and making this happen. And they're doing it to punish Spain because Spain doesn't co-sign the wickedness of Israel.
Like I said, it's not just those two actors that are doing it, those two parties. There's a huge population of people in our civilizations that are actively pushing for this, that actively protect these people and help them. Even our churches. Remember hearing about the Catholic Church that was practically smuggling people, illegals, into America? Big time. Like, not only are we fighting foreigners and foreign countries and foreign religions, we're fighting our own battles with our own people all the time. You know, we have that Renee Good. It's crazy. We're literally surrounded from all sides. Crazy.
Those are the three civilizational enemies that are making this happen. It's a left-wing government betraying their own people. It's Washington betraying its own people on behalf of Israel. It's Israel and the Muslims twisting the knife against us. This is a story of what's happening in the West. And the answer to all three of these is nationalism. Only nationalism can cut through all three. The left is our enemy, the third world is our enemy, and the Zionists are our enemy. The Jewish oligarchy, the Jewish nationalists are our enemies. The left is our enemy because these are people that are self-hating. These are self-hating anarchists. They hate everything that is good. The left wing is effectively suicidal, those that are white, that is. And the left is obviously comprised of and infiltrated by spiritual or
and it strikes me that, bro, a political ideology like nationalism, that's not going to fix this. It would be one thing if it was like, you know, Weimar Germany, or if it was anything. I mean, right now, we're not dealing with something that can be fixed politically. Like, we're being sold out from the inside. You know, there's traitors selling us out. And it's like nationalism isn't good enough. It looks like we're going to have to act and actually do something, get involved. Like, for us to stop, reverse what's happening, we'd have to, like, the political stuff, like he's saying, that works when you're in a fight with the Democrats over policy. That works when your government is on your side, protecting the borders. That, you know, getting tough politically, that works when everything else is taken care of. You know, like, you can focus on political maneuvering when the basics are covered, but our basics aren't covered. We're not being protected from invasion, you know, being replaced, all these different things that normally our government should be protecting us from, but it's not. And it just strikes me that him saying, you know, he says nationalism is the answer. I beg to differ. I disagree. It's like anything short of us, you know, getting up and making it happen. Like, there's no arm that we can twist to make this happen. You know what I mean? Like, whose arm do we twist? Nobody cares what we think. And if we're upset by this, nobody cares. So it would be on us to do something about it, or to twist an arm, or to, you know what I mean? Like, otherwise we're locked in a struggle with multiple groups of people that want it the opposite. Even the neocons want this. You know, they're like he's saying about Morocco, the Republicans, they're talking about they want Spain to have to give up their land. Like, yeah, we're the only group in the country that is worried about this. Like, we can't get the Republicans on board. We can't get the Democrats on board. We basically have no political, there's no political home for us for this other than us. You know, and he's talking about nationalism. It's just like, bro, that's what are the odds that we wrestle control and the power away from Democrats and the neocons? What are the odds that we actually get it from both of them? You know, like, this is a democracy. You know, they have a say too. We're sharing the country with them. We have to beat them to get anything done. And then if we do beat them, the people that we beat them with won't do what we want them to do. You know, like, I think it's beyond what Nick is talking about. This is death by 1,000 cuts, or, you know, we're being held down while our blood is sucked, or while we're being bludgeoned to death. But how do we make that stop? You know, how do we make that stop? How do we untie our hand? Like, I just don't see how we do it other than by making it happen. I'm not seeing it. I don't see how. I don't think nationalism is the light at the end of the tunnel. Honestly, I think that's kind of, it's like, bro, you know, is that honestly your answer? Because that just seems like not even an answer, not even it's like as if he's not even aware of the problem or something. Because that, bro, if we just go a little bit further to the right, you know, we'll fix this. Everything will be okay. I don't know. I'm not seeing it, man. Maybe I'm just blind, or maybe I'm not, you know, I'm missing something here, but I don't know. I don't know, man. I think this is kind of missed the point here with this.
Outsiders too. It's filled with so-called marginalized people, disaffected people, poor people, students, radicals, deviants, foreigners. And so the left they just want to see destruction. They want to see the country ripped to pieces. They want the stench of weed. They want graffiti. They want chaos.
They want us pissed. They want us disenfranchised, and they've almost accomplished it.
Crime. They want the rich to be destroyed. Their mascot is a masked person in a hoodie setting a cop car on fire. So we can never work with the left. We can never work with the left that says refugees welcome, abolish ICE, open the prisons, get rid of the police. These people are anarchists. These people hate themselves. If they had it their way, we wouldn't have a country. We can't work with the third world either. At the end of the day, be that as it may, that they might be traditional and they might have their own axe to grind against Israel, they're also always going to promote their own interests. And their interests are increasing their footprint in our countries to increase their influence over our resources and government.
Yeah, like I said, it's a play for our resources. You know, like, there's no other way to see it. They're doing this to get resources out of us. We're the haves, they're the have-nots. And the left loves it. They're lapping this shit up.
Always promote the invasion of the West by their own people, because that is an extension of their power. The more Muslims live in the United Kingdom, the more influence they have over one of the most powerful countries in the world. The same goes for the United States or Germany or France. They're always going to promote their own civilization, their own culture, their own expansion at the expense of us. And so we have nothing really in common with these people. As a matter of fact, there's enmity between us. We have different religions, different gods, different cultures, historical antipathy. They're not our friends either. And if they have it their way, they're going to open up the gates and flood into Europe and the United States all the same, and broadcast their call to prayer and bring their abominable culture too. And then
with their culture comes the destruction of our culture, because it's not like our culture can live side by side with their culture. Not even. And they're the kind of chauvinist douchebags where, like, we want to live, you and I, we like our own people, we like our civilization, and we want to be around it, we want to be in it. They feel the same way. We will compromise, they won't. They're chauvinistic, they just want what they want, and they truly don't put any stock in what we want. They're not the kind of people that compromise, third worlders. If they have a neighbor that refuses to just give up they just kill him. Like, that's their answer to let's compromise. How about no, and I just kill you? That's fair. That, to me, that's better. That's what we're dealing with here. They are not going to compromise. Like, they're not going to live. Okay, we won't play our call to prayer. We know it bothers you guys. Fuck, man. Those are the first things they do, is implement the stuff that they can't live without and that we can't stand. And there's nothing we can do short of moving, throwing them out, or just getting rid of them that will, stop them from insisting that we get used to them.
And lastly, it is the Zionist Jewish nationalists and their tools in the United States. Because at the end of the day, once again, like the Muslims, we may share common interests with Jews too. It's also true. What do we have in common with the Muslims in the third world? Well, Muslims and third worldists, they tend to be more socially traditional and conservative. They're anti-feminist, they're against a lot of the sexual deviancy, they're very critical of Israel, and so on and so forth. And similarly, we have a common interest with Jews, in the sense that Jews are against Muslims, let's say globally or generally speaking. And we might say that Jews promote religion or monotheism or something like this. And maybe in some cases are anti-abortion. I'm talking about the pro-Israel Jews.
Bro, I don't see how, like, the point he's making here. It's like, dude, maybe they vaguely share some similar sentiments, but they are not aligned with us at all. At all. Like, these people, they're atheists. I mean, I don't see, like, what, they're anti-abortion. What are you talking about? They have pride parades and they're proud of it. Like, these people they're not like us. They don't align with us. They don't have similar goals and ambitions, and their interest doesn't align with ours. And I mean, I would say, because I'm a conservative, I agree with Muslims on certain things, on modesty and stuff and propriety, but not with the Israelites, certainly not. And the Muslims, they're just savages. Like I said, they're only somewhat cool or neat or novel. They only have the novelty when they're in this extreme minority, under 1%. Then they're sort of novel. Like, it's not terrible to have a conversation with them and, like, kind of hear them evangelize about their stuff. But, like, they're putting on a smiling face for us. It's totally a facade. We're not aligned with either of these. They're totally different civilizations, and they all hate our guts. They all they're the have-nots and we're the haves. They want what we have, and they're willing to do a lot more distasteful things that we aren't willing to do.
But the reason why the Jews, just like the Muslims, the reason they can never truly be on our side is because, like the Muslims, they're alienated from us. They have their own God, their own language, their own culture. They have enmity with us also. They have historical antagonism with the West. At the end of the day,
I wouldn't even say it's antagonism. I think they have a complex, but they think they're better than we are. So it galls them at so many different levels that they have to listen to us or deal with us you know, they don't. That's not what they're about. Like they don't want to help us or any, like they're just trying to take from us too. I mean, and it's like all of us hate Israel. We don't like Israel for that reason. Most all of us probably didn't think anything of Israel when we were younger. It's through their transgressions against us that we don't like them anymore. It's not because we just woke up and despised them one day. It's because they've been taking advantage of us. We've been injured by them. They take from us. It's not for no reason. It's like I don't see. I'm not aligned with them in any way, shape, or form, and that's kind of where I part ways with Fuentes. Is at some level, you know, I could see. I believe he'd be willing to team up with these people if he saw a benefit to it. I wouldn't be willing to do that, to be honest. Fuck.
Organized minority rules and why are the masses, despite their vast numbers, so powerless against their ruling elite? The Italian school of elitism argues that in every complex society, an organized minority.
There was two that I watched. This was the other one. Here we go.
The West is racist. That's what mainstream leftism has been saying for decades. Why else would there be such great disparities in income, crime rates, etc. between racial groups? In their worldview, all racial groups and cultures are equal. Therefore, all disparities can only be explained by discrimination. And for just as long, the mainstream right has been counter-arguing that culture explains all disparities. In their worldview, some racial groups completely randomly adopted cultures that sabotage themselves. For them, culture is the root cause. Any racial group could theoretically adopt a culture that has worked for any other group and improve themselves. And for that reason, all could theoretically assimilate anywhere. Both of these worldviews are nonsensical. Obviously, discrimination isn't the only factor, and culture clearly matters. But just as obvious, a people's culture is not random. It's the product of the people who create and sustain it. And isn't there a more obvious root cause to consider? That perhaps different groups are innately different and thus have different outcomes, even in the absence of outside forces? When studying group disparities, why don't we examine the groups themselves? You already know why. Because in our modern society, one of the most sacred dogmas is racial egalitarianism, the belief that all racial groups are fundamentally the same. Which is precisely why in this video, I'll be ranking and debunking all arguments for racial egalitarianism, and then putting them on a tier list. If you enjoyed, consider subscribing, it helps the channel. A quick disclaimer, since this entire debate exists because of the collective disparities between entire groups, we'll therefore be dealing with collective group averages. Therefore, the existence of exceptional individuals of any group isn't relevant, as they are precisely that, exceptions. If you're the kind of person who accuses other groups collectively when it suits you, but then accuse others of racism if they don't treat members of your group as individuals, you can click off. Intelligence is not genetically linked. This obviously false statement is a necessary act of mental gymnastics for the purely socioeconomic factors crowd. Because intelligence is heritable, as shown from twin and adoption studies, it's completely within reason to say that certain groups have selected for it more than others. In fact, if you agree with evolution, then you must concede this. How else would humans have evolved intelligence? Some dog breeds are obviously smarter than other dog breeds. The Border Collie and Chihuahua are both the same species, yet differ greatly in intellect and trainability. Should we expect that a Chihuahua would do as well as a Border Collie? Is it purely socioeconomic factors and anti-Chihuahua racism that makes them a minority in working dog roles? NPC tier. Humans are genetically 99.9% identical. You share half of your genes with a banana. 90% of your DNA sequence.
That's insane. I didn't like. I mean, I think he's right. You know, we do share some genetic code with bananas, which is insane to think of that. Like, we share some genetic material with I think all living life on Earth, I want to say. Pretty sure.
Shared with your cat. Quantitative similarities between genetic content does not equal qualitative differences. That 0.1% matters. Did you know that gray wolves are 99.9% identical to domestic dogs? In fact, they only diverged from each other about 20 to 30,000 years ago, which is significantly shorter than the divergence between some human groups. But obviously that doesn't mean it's okay to bring a gray wolf to the dog park. If gray wolves on average end up being more aggressive than dogs, solely blaming it on just socioeconomic factors like dog trait disparities seems a little silly. Because remember, aggression, impulse control, personality traits are all also genetically linked. NPC tier. There is more intragroup variance than intergroup. This claim says that the genetic difference between one randomly selected person in the village and another randomly selected person in the same village is greater than the genetic difference between the average person of one race and the average person of another. Therefore, race is inconsequential. The premise is true, but there's a flaw in this logic. Not all genes are made equal. Most random genetic variants...
Right, yeah, that's like they're pretending like the variance between you and your community and the variance between you and an African are equal. And it's like, no, not really, because there's not much difference, you know, like in the variance. Like there's a big difference between the variance of us and Africans. And there might be a big genetic difference between us and other people in our family and stuff, but it doesn't present itself in a radically different, you know, way of life, or, you know, that the people in your community, they come out quite similar to you, not radically different like an African compared to a European.
Between people doesn't matter. But some specific genes matter so much that practically the entire group adapted to have those genes and are often defined by it. For example, the Duffy negative mutation, which is found in 95 to 100% of West and Central Africans, makes them immune to malaria. But 0% of those without African blood have it. Or the Tibetans' EPAS1, which allows them to...
What the hell? I didn't know that. Like, so they're just that much... There's way hardier than we are for swamp and like places with bugs and mosquitoes, like, because malaria, you know, that has killed a hell of a lot of Europeans. It sounds like it hasn't killed, probably doesn't kill all that many Africans.
Survive in high altitudes where oxygen is reduced by about 40%, which occurs for them about 90% of the time, but 0% for Africans and Europeans. Or the ABCC11 gene that makes 80 to 95% of East Asians have no sweat odor.
Bro, isn't that crazy? East Asians don't have, they don't stink, basically. They don't have sweat odor. They don't have body odor like we do. What the hell? But like, also the fact that we can drink dairy or we can drink milk, you know, that's one of those mutations that only Europeans really have. Milk, and then redheads, you know, like the painkiller mutate. Like there's quite a few mutate, and they make us hardier for certain conditions.
Again, practically non-existent elsewhere. This becomes even more complex when it comes to traits that are influenced by multiple genes. We haven't fully isolated the genes that are responsible for intelligence or personality, yet we do know both are genetically linked. And I think we can both agree that social cohesion caused by similarities in intellect and character is vastly more important to survival than odorless sweat. Flop tier. Race is a social construct. Nowadays, whenever a leftist says X is a social construct, you should just interpret that as code for I have no counter to this observable aspect of reality. It's not an argument, it's just wordplay. What does social construct even mean anymore? Anything that humans have a socialized concept for? By that logic, everything is a social construct. The sun, the earth, molecules, everything has a socialized concept, as proven by the fact that I can name them and you know what I'm talking about.
What they mean by a social construct is that it has come about from human repetition and human experience, humans living life, that whatever institution or the construct is, it's come about because of that. You know, because of people living life alongside each other. And really what they're implying there is that it's not innate human behavior, therefore it can be changed. That's what they're saying when they say that's a social construct. That's a social construct that's bad, and we should change it. That's what they're saying. But that's kind of ignorant and childish, petty. Because, I mean, a social construct, that doesn't, you know, honestly, all that means is that we need it and that it's got a purpose. Because humans don't just do stuff for no reason. Everything we do has a purpose. You know, but the way they see it is that's bad, but it's a social construct, so that means we can change it. You know, it's not an evolutionary adaptation for the most part. It's changeable, and that's their whole thing. That's the whole ball of wax for them, because they're in the business of fixing humans, of, you know, changing humans so that they're not flawed anymore. You know, fighting human behavior. That's what communism is about. That's what progressivism is about. They think that we're all just widgets, and that they can tweak some details, and that we'll snap into line, we'll conform.
That we have a social construct surrounding any aspect of reality does not mean that aspect of reality is made up. In fact, we build social constructs around real things out of necessity. A bis tier. IQ tests are unreliable. For many decades, race egalitarians have had to deal with the world IQ map, which showed interesting patterns between IQ score and identity. Their only rebuttal has been either that IQ is not meaningfully influenced by genetics, which is demonstrably false, and that IQ has issues. I don't contest the latter, but it's the best we've got. IQ is the best predictor of success that we have, even more so than being born rich. Some then argue that IQ in reality should be used as a predictor of success in Western society, rather than intelligence. Fine then, if IQ is a reliable metric for success in Western society, then naturally those of low IQ will not do well in Western society, and therefore we should not be importing them. Nor should we expect low IQ groups to have similar outcomes to high IQ groups.
All it means, it has nothing to do with intelligence and stuff. What it means is those people are not good at the stuff that we place high value on. The sorts of behaviors, the sorts of activities, the sorts of penchants and you know, curiosities. The stuff they do doesn't produce anything that we value. Nothing. It might produce stuff that their own, you know, society, their own civilization values, but not ours. You know, we don't need fruit pickers like that anymore. You know, we don't need that stuff. We don't need mindless drones to pick cabbage and stuff for us anymore. It's unnecessary. We don't need it. And they don't really produce anything else other than mindless labor. I mean, and maybe that's why they're bringing them here. I mean, it's about all they're good for, that and breeding like rabbits.
Even in the absence of discrimination. Since IQ is so artificially advantageous in the West, let those of low IQ thrive in other societies. Why do they insist on coming into our ones where they'll suffer? The reason is because there are no societies where high IQ isn't advantageous. NPC tier. Culture fully explains disparities. This is everyone's favorite cope when they don't agree that the West is discriminating against certain groups, but don't want to give leftists reasons to call them racist. Here's the thing, you're gonna be called racist regardless when you disagree, so you might as well be honest. Why do some groups adopt or create certain cultures more readily than others? Both genes and culture obviously have an effect on each other. Genetics influence what culture you're most innately compatible with, and culture works as a form of selection. But which came first, genetics or culture? This isn't a philosophic question. Genes obviously predate culture. Culture is a product of a people, not the cause of it, even if there is a feedback loop. Just because a culture works for one group of people.
Culture, way of life, behavior, habits, all of those things develop as like a symptom, for lack of a better word, of somebody's genetics. You know, all of the things they're predisposed to, the way they live, the stuff they do, the standards they keep, those are all a physical and material representation of who they are as a genetic being and as a spiritual being. You know, it has everything to do with the information in their genetic code. You know, pretty much everything else is equal except that. It's obviously got to be genes, because really there's not any other difference other than genetic makeup between black people and white people. You know, people kind of are people to a certain degree. You know, and the difference in cultures has a little bit to do with maybe environment. Like, you know, we're from Europe where it's different, the weather's different, but it's also it's also a culmination of us as people and our genetics as a genetic being.
Doesn't mean it works for all. Abyss tier. Different groups are different for a reason. They adapted to survive in their own unique circumstances. The expectation that you can transplant the people from one part of the world into another, and that they'll integrate and perform at identical levels to anyone else, is a delusion rooted in the routinely debunked blank slate ideology. An ideology perpetuated solely by the fear of being labeled racist. That concludes the tier list. If there are any other arguments you'd like to see addressed, please share them in the comments below.
That's such... Man,
Ryan, let's talk now about
much how a lot of this, we could handle these people, we could handle what's happening if we didn't have a populace or a demographic or people in our own civilization that insist on fighting us tooth and nail at every turn when it comes to this immigration. You know, if we didn't have a government that was treacherous and, you know, going behind our back and cutting these kinds of deals. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I believe that, you know, the West, the elites in the West probably are in cahoots with the Moroccan government. I don't know. That's my gut feeling, is that this isn't just, you know, Morocco acting on their own or even acting with Israel. My gut says that this is our own crooked, evil set group of elites that are doing all this crap. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, man, did you guys see about Ukraine? About the what's going on? I mean, it's kind of scary, man. It is a bit like a world war. Because this is how world wars break out. But they've attacked Iran. The Ukraine has attacked Iran. And obviously the reason is, if they attack Iran and go to war with Iran, it's to get us to go to war, declare war against Russia. That's what that is. They're attacking our enemy, hoping that they can get us to attack their enemy. That's how world wars start, when allies start trying to drag each other into a war. Like, this is exactly how a world war starts. On July 25th, Ukraine struck three vessels in the northern waters of Caspian Sea that were traveling from Iran to Russia. Attacking Iran has never been and will never be without cost. America and Israel know this full well. And this is you don't really I haven't seen much about this either. Like, what the hell is going on? How is that we're not hearing about, like, the Ukraine all of a sudden is attacking Iran? How long before NATO or other European countries are attacking Iran too? Honestly, because they've been pushing this Ukraine war along with fighting Russia. How long before Russia attacks us for Iran? I mean, this is all this stuff is going on, and what's crazy is it's as if nothing is going on. Everything seems kind of normal. People don't realize how out of control things really are. And we're at quite a weak point, civilizationally and militarily. I mean, it's like the last thing we need is for the Ukraine to get Russia or get Iran and Russia, get this whole thing, explode this whole thing, because Russia, they like share a border with Iran. And what if and China could end up getting involved? I mean, it's truly like some World War II stuff, World War I, World War II. It's not good. Shit. Anywho, fellas, I'm gonna cut it there for this stream. I went a little bit longer. I just kind of wanted to, I don't know, do something a little bit longer, hang with you guys a little bit longer on a Friday evening. Anywho, I hope you'll, comment, like, subscribe if you haven't already. Become a member, of course, if you can. I intend on doing a stream this weekend, either tomorrow night or Sunday night, and it's going to be at least a members only, insofar as only members will be able to comment in the chat. But until Monday, I'll be back, of course, Monday night for sure. But just keep your eyes peeled for over this weekend. I'll do it. I'm going to do a stream for sure. But yeah, I hope you guys had a great week, and don't let this stuff get you down too much. Don't let it get in the way of you doing good for yourself. Truly. But until the next one, fellas, take it easy. I will see you in the next one, brothers and sisters.